Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. His body no longer looked fat. Only when he bent over did his stomach form 2 faint folds. If my face could slim down more, if I could cut my body fat further, that would be best. Yoru put the scale away with a quiet sigh in his heart. He knew full well that he still had room to improve. Room to become even more attractive. The fat on his face could still go. His body fat percentage could still drop. This wasn't even close to his final form. After washing up, he made breakfast. Then he went for his morning run in the park. He didn't see Chika today. Probably busy with student council matters ahead of the new semester. After returning home and resting for a while, Yoru thoroughly washed his hair and grabbed his cap, then headed out to Shibuya. Time for a haircut. He understood clearly that hairstyle had a big impact on appearance. If he wasn't naturally that good looking, then he'd improve his looks through style. Man, I envy guys who are naturally handsome. They're always surrounded by cute and pretty girls. Not everyone gets lucky like Dad. Ugly but still landed a beautiful wife. Click. Locking the door, Yoru set off. After about an hour on the train, he arrived in the bustling Shibuya district. Shibuya. Harajuku. Known as the trend-setting capital of Asia. A sea of cash, pop-up shops, and fashionable influencers. Street snapshots happening everywhere. It was lively beyond words. Yoru crossed the world-famous Shibuya Scramble crossing and followed his phone's GPS to the salon. This time, he went all out. He was ready to pay a hefty sum for the sake of his hairstyle. After entering a grand shopping complex, Yoru removed his cap and stepped into the elevator. He pressed a button for the right floor. As the transparent glass elevator rapidly ascended, Yoru looked down at the stream of traffic below through his thick hair. He had already made an appointment. As soon as he entered the shop, someone guided him into a private room. The decor was minimalistic, with mirrors on both ends, and refreshments. Drinks, fruits, snacks were provided. After a short wait, a stylist entered, an older man in a vest who vaguely resembled Iron Man. "Hello, Mr. Kitakami. Do you have any requests for your hairstyle?" Uncle Tony asked politely. "I'm not sure. Just design something you think suits me." With that, Yoru closed his eyes. Tony sighed softly. This job wasn't easy. At a truly high-end salon, most of the clients were regulars. New clients like Yoru who didn't specify what they wanted were the hardest. If they didn't like the result, they wouldn't come back. Tony shook his head slightly and lifted Yoru's hair to reveal his full face. And froze. He was a married man, happily in love with his wife, and had no confusion about his preferences. Yet even as a fellow man, he found Yoru incredibly attractive, charming, and handsome. So this client is naturally gifted. Any style would look good on him. Tony relaxed. With looks like that, even bald would still look good. But still, I need to design this carefully. This client's likely a student. His long hair is messy and unstyled. Probably doesn't want to keep it long. Perm? Doesn't suit the student. Let's go with something low maintenance but uncommon. Tony took the job seriously, determined to deliver results worthy of Yoru's money. Countless ideas flashed through his mind. In the end, he decided on a slightly long cut with some light perming and dye, styled like a manga heartthrob. Handsome but practical. He had done this style a few times before. But all of those clients had been small-time idols with decent looks. And they'd all failed to pull it off. They just didn't have the face for it. But Tony was confident. Yoru did. An hour and a half later, Tony used some styling wax to add light texture and volume, tugged out a few wisps, and nodded in satisfaction. With looks like these, Yoru could head to the Kabukicho district and become a top host, pulling in 10 million yen a night from rich housewives. And that's not even considering Yoru's actual hidden potential. "All done, sir." Tony gently called out to wake him. Yoru, who had been half dozing, made a soft noise, stretched, and stood up. When he opened his eyes and looked in the mirror. Huh? He blinked, suddenly feeling like he looked kind of handsome. Could it be that he really was a good-looking guy? For someone with basically zero confidence in his own appearance, the self-doubt was setting in. You're truly very handsome, sir. No exaggeration. You're the most attractive person I've ever seen in my career. Tony smiled proudly, admiring his own work. Thanks. This hairstyle's pretty good. Looking at his reflection, Yoru couldn't help but imagine himself as the main character in a manga. Even the messy, airy vibe was styled really well. Yoru's black hair had been lightly tinted with a hint of brownish green, giving it a more layered look. As for Uncle Tony's compliments, Yoru took them as standard politeness or just part of the shop's customer service. He didn't take them seriously. After accepting a small styling gift box from the salon, Yoru left. Passing through the main lounge of the salon, he didn't notice several attractive older women staring directly at him, eyes wide and glued to his face. Guess it's about lunchtime. Getting my hair done really took a while. Yoru took the elevator downstairs, bought a bottle of water, and sat on a bench by the roadside to drink. There was still time before his scheduled health check. 3 women with dyed hair and revealing outfits walked toward him in a group. Hello. Hey there, little guy. Are you by yourself? They had just been passing by, drawn in purely by Yoru's looks. Huh? Yoru looked up at the 3 scantily dressed women and was instantly at a loss. We're asking. Are you alone? Wanna grab a drink with us? Come on. One of them even reached out as if to grab his arm. I've got something to do, sorry. Yoru instinctively dodged, squeezing out a polite smile. Huh? Seriously? Well, whatever. Let's go. Clearly not used to being rejected so directly, the women reluctantly walked away. Wait. Our hostess is just out here on the street now. Yoru shook his head rapidly. This place was close to Kabukicho, the largest red light district in all of Asia. Naturally, he just assumed the women were hostesses scouting for clients. In reality, they were just a bit open-minded and wanted to sleep with a cute, innocent-looking guy. I should probably get away from here. Once the women had left, Yoru stood up and quickly left Shibuya. He didn't go home for lunch. Instead, he wandered around a seaside area in Minato Ward. He grabbed lunch at a nearby family restaurant. Thanks. Yoru politely accepted the food brought by the waiter. He had ordered a set meal, salad, main course, a drink, and a chocolate croissant toasted to a crispy perfection. He stared at the croissant for a while, then shook his head and chose not to eat it. Still not skinny enough. Gotta stick to it. He pushed the plate with the croissant aside, then looked up. Only to meet the gaze of a little girl seated at the table ahead. Her eyes were filled with pure longing. Yoru paused, then pointed to the chocolate croissant. The little girl's eyes lit up and she nodded vigorously. Do you want it? Yoru smiled. The girl was pretty cute. Probably just started elementary school? No, more like preschool. I do. Kawasaki Keika replied without hesitation. Then I'll give it to you. I wasn't going to eat it anyway. Yoru smiled and pushed the plate toward her. Really? Thank you, mister. Keika said bashfully, but she was already hopping over to his table. She plopped herself down in the seat across from him. Are you here by yourself? Yoru picked up his fork and started eating his salad. Nope, I'm here with my sister. Hey mister, can I really have this? Keika eyed the croissant eagerly, tiny hands ready to pounce. Of course. It's yours now. Yoru smiled again. Thanks. You're super handsome, mister. Keika grinned, her big eyes sparkling. She hugged the croissant and took a huge bite. The rich, dark chocolate filling burst out and smeared all over her mouth. Kawasaki Saki returned from the restroom, and for a second, panicked when she saw Keika missing. Then she spotted her sitting at another table, munching on a croissant and chatting with a boy. Sighing, Saki walked over, quickly piecing together what had happened. She knew her sister too well. Keika, don't just wander off. And Saki suddenly had a tissue in hand as she approached her sister. Saki-ne. Keika looked guilty, lowering her half-eaten croissant, hands and mouth covered in chocolate. I'm terribly sorry about this. My little sister, she didn't mean to bother you. Saki's words trailed off. She froze mid-sentence and struggled to finish. The boy in front of her had unbelievably good looks, an extraordinary aura, and a gentle presence that made people want to approach him. Hee. It's fine. Yoru hadn't realized anything was off. He was a bit stunned too. The tall beauty before him had a high ponytail, a teardrop mole under her left eye, and wore a plain black tee with denim shorts and white sneakers. Wasn't she Kawasaki something? A classmate from first year? Yoru remembered her because she was pretty, with long, fair legs. Here, let me wipe your face. Saki composed herself and bent down, using a tissue to clean the chocolate off Kika's face. Yoru quietly cut a piece of fish and watched. "I'll pay for the croissant." Saki crumpled the tissue, took Kika's hand, and looked at Yoru. "There's no need. I wasn't going to eat it anyway." Yoru set down his knife and fork, waving dismissively. Yeah. Saki, nay, this handsome guy gave it to me. And I wanna eat here with him. I'm not going anywhere." Kika broke free from Saki's grip and shook her head hard. Yoru gave a helpless smile. "So she only called me handsome because I gave her a croissant, huh?" Kika wasn't just cute. She had a sweet mouth too. Kika. Saki and Kika exchanged looks. In the end, she gave in to her sister's stubbornness. She shot Yoru a slightly embarrassed glance and sat down across from him. Yoru took a sip of water and looked towards Saki. "Yes." Saki studied the impossibly handsome boy in front of her. "Are you Kawasaki-san?" Yoru scratched the back of his head with a sheepish smile. "Huh?" Saki froze for a moment, then quickly scanned him from head to toe, eyes focused and intense. Her normally calm expression slowly turned surprised. Kika paused mid-bite, holding her croissant with both hands as she looked between her sister and Yoru. This handsome guy was her sister's classmate. "Sorry, but who exactly are you?" Saki scrutinized Yoru from head to toe, yet still couldn't recognize him. And if she had known him, with how Yoru looked now, there's no way he wouldn't have been famous at school. She was sure. She didn't know the person in front of her. "Don't get the wrong idea. I just know who you are. We used to be in neighboring classes, that's how I recognized you." Yoru gave a bitter smile inwardly. Tomorrow he'd be reporting back to school. Would everyone there look at him like this too? Elementary or middle school classmate? Saki, an impure student, kept guessing. If that were the case, it'd make sense not to remember him after a few years. "No. I'm Yoru Kitakami. I'm the guy everyone said stole Kasumijoka Utaha stockings and underwear." Yoru forced a smile. The air fell completely silent. Everything around them quieted. You. Say that again. "Who are you?" Saki's voice trembled uncontrollably. "A thief?" Kika sucked on her chocolate drink and tilted her head. "It's me. I've been losing weight." Yoru lifted his cup and took a sip of water to ease the tension. "For real?" Saki instinctively doubted him, not entirely convinced. A disgusting fat nerd suddenly turning into a ridiculously handsome guy right before your eyes. It was only natural to be skeptical. "It really is me." Yoru kept smiling bitterly. Losing weight this fast really did scare people. "You. This is unbelievable." "Phew." Saki stared at Yoru's face and only after a long pause finally let out a deep breath. She never used to believe the saying that fat guys had hidden potential. "Saki, nay, what are you two talking about?" Kika asked curiously after finishing her bread. "Nothing." Saki wasn't dumb. She wasn't going to badmouth Yoru right in front of him. "It was something really unpleasant for me," Yoru said, eyes blank as he slightly raised his head, a cold smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. Saki glanced at him for a second, then quickly looked away. So handsome. At the bar where she worked part-time, the lonely rich housewives loved guys like this. Lunch took an unexpected turn. But it was pleasant. After eating, Yoru took a stroll along the beach and bought a medical mask along the way. At 3 p.m., wearing the mask, Yoru arrived at the hospital for his physical examination. Different tests took different amounts of time, and depending on the lines, it wasn't until after 5 p.m. that Yoru finally left. The results weren't ready yet and would only be available the next morning. "I'll grab the report and court scan tomorrow morning before going to school. It's just a checkup. Dad's bugging me again." On the way home, Yoru replied to his father's message and sighed. Was it really necessary to rush so much? Once home, he had a light dinner. Just some fruit and shredded chicken breast. Then took a shower and lay back on his bed. The warm, dim yellow light dispelled the darkness in the room. Yoru hugged San with both hands, resting her on his stomach as he lay in a spread eagle position staring blankly at the ceiling. A flood of memories flashed through his mind like a carousel of fragmented scenes. They were all things he'd personally experienced. But he was no longer his past self. He had become the new Yoru. The night passed without incident. September 1st. It was already early autumn. Yoru kept to his summer schedule. After washing up and doing fasted cardio, he made breakfast. Usually, students didn't have to attend class on registration day. After a simple meal, Yoru let his hair down, giving it a quick tousle without bothering to style it. Uncle Tony had designed this haircut in a way that didn't need much upkeep anyway. "Gabriel, let's go register. School's starting." Yoru knocked on Gabriel's apartment door. "No. I'm not going." "You go ahead." Inside the slightly messy room, Gabriel sat with dark circles under her eyes. It was clear she'd pulled an all-nighter gaming. Then just keep track of the time yourself. Yoru remembered he still needed to pick up his medical report, and the check-in window for Shuchin Academy was pretty flexible. As long as you arrived before noon, it was fine. So he didn't bother pushing Gabriel. Aoyama-san probably has work today, right? And her boyfriend too. I wonder how they're doing. Yoru originally thought about calling out to Nanami, but hesitated at the stairs. Previously, when Nanami found out Candace Orado was pretending to be her boyfriend, she had gone straight to confront him. Not long after that, Yoru had been hospitalized. He hadn't been to school in nearly 2 months. Both Nanami and Yoru had pushed the matter out of their minds. Even now, he still thought Nanami was dating Candace Orada. He had no idea Nanami had grown to absolutely hate him. Inside the hospital waiting room. Even though it was early autumn, the temperature hadn't dropped yet. It was still as hot as summer. Sakurajima Mai sat trapped in a thick, long down coat. Her cheeks were bright red like a monkey's, her eyes dull as she leaned lifelessly against the chair. Anyone could see she looked severely ill. A gust of wind might be enough to knock her over. But what was strangest of all was that the nurses at the front desk, though not too busy, didn't seem to notice her at all. They continued going about their work as if she didn't exist, even though she was sitting right in their field of view. A stunning, radiant young actress wearing a long blue down jacket. Something only worn during extremely cold winters. And yet, no one paid her any attention. Not just the nurses. Even patients passing by, even an old woman sitting right beside her, didn't notice anything strange. That's right. Sakurajima Mai was sick. Seriously sick. But she had came to the hospital just to steal some medicine to treat herself. It had started about half a year ago. Sakurajima Mai found herself in a strange state. Sometimes, people would deliberately ignore her, overlook her. At first, she didn't notice anything unusual, since it wasn't that extreme. She just assumed people were being careless. But things gradually got worse. 3 months ago, after finishing a shoot with a closed film crew, she walked through the city streets and realized most people completely ignored her. To them, she was like air. She had no idea what to do, frozen in fear, her face drained of color. As time went on, the condition worsened. Even her closest family, her own mother, couldn't see her anymore. She began to feel like her very existence had been erased, like ink wiped off paper with an eraser. Even small objects she touched, like picking up a piece of bread or the clothes she wore, would vanish from other people's eyes. Sonar, infrared, thermal imaging. None of it could detect Sakurajima Mai. No one remembered her. No one could see her. Terrified and helpless, Mai locked herself in her room in despair and even considered ending her life. She stood atop a skyscraper. One step forward would end her pain. But she hesitated. Lacked the courage. In the end, she pulled herself back. She chose instead to wear a sexy bunny girl outfit and walk around crowded stations and streets. If anyone could see her in that, they'd definitely look. Tokyo, Osaka, Nagoya, New York, Paris, London. When no one in Japan reacted, she even tried going abroad. Eventually, Mai returned to Japan. Sick and exhausted. Her mood plummeted. She was in despair. Her body deteriorated. Her internal clock was messed up. Hormones out of whack. Jet lag. Flu. Virus. All these factors combined. Mai developed a severe fever. She'd tried all kinds of convenience store meds. Nothing brought the fever down. She cooled down after pills in the morning, only to burn up again at night. Bundling herself in the coat was a physical way to try sweating it out. She came to the hospital not to see a doctor. No one could see her anyway. She just wanted to grab 4 drips. If pills didn't work, she'd inject herself. She sat for a long time. Too weak to even lift her arm, she slowly pulled out a thermometer she'd been holding for ages. 39.2 degrees Celsius. A definite high fever. Seeing the number, Mai actually felt a little relieved. Yesterday she hit 40 degrees Celsius. After taking a fever-suppressing steroid, she passed out. Or maybe just fainted from the heat. She trembled as she put the thermometer away, then leaned on the chair's arm to stand up. A sudden coughing fit hit her. Her vision blurred. The world spun. She collapsed. Luckily, it was just a fall. She feared fainting from the fever. Falling into a coma, convulsing, even dying. Gasping for air, the disinfectant smell stung her nose. Struggling, Mai spotted a broom in a corner, slowly crawled over it like a frail grandma, and used it as a cane to head toward the pharmacy. In her current invisible state, she could take any medicine easily. Sure, the stockroom might notice something missing, but she didn't care. Besides, the pharmacy had security cameras. The staff wouldn't get punished. Just inconvenienced. Elsewhere, Yoru received his checkup results. He actually was a little sick. Some mild hypoglycemia. His rapid weight loss even surprised the doctor. They gave him a prescription for glucose supplements. Just low blood sugar. Yoru muttered, snapping a photo to send to his dad for reassurance. He was totally fine. Healthy as a horse. On the way to the pharmacy, Mai grew more and more exhausted. A violent cough racked her again, and she collapsed onto the cold, dirty floor. Huh? Hearing the noise, Yoru turned and recognized Mai. She clutched her chest as she coughed, her neck flushed red. The people nearby ignored her completely. At first, Yoru didn't notice anything strange. He quickly walked over and crouched beside her. Through her blurred vision, Mai saw the light dim. Someone had approached. She was so feverish her mind was fuzzy, about to faint. Sakurajima Mai, are you okay? Yoru hesitated, holding out a hand, unsure whether to help her up. Deep down, he still carried the mindset of his former self. He wanted someone to acknowledge that he was no longer that disgusting, fat slob. You. Cough. You can see me? And know who I am? Miraculously, Mai jerked her head up. Adrenaline surged, giving her a burst of energy. Even the Grim Reaper had to wait for adrenaline to wear off before claiming a life. Drawing from that strength, she pushed herself to a half kneel, her eyes briefly clearing. What did you say? Yoru asked reflexively. I. Overwhelmed, Mai was speechless with emotion. Her state was surreal. If she could control her condition. Or if Yoru could harness her mysterious power. Taking revenge on a rich heiress like Shinomiya Kaguya would be a breeze. She could literally kill anyone with zero consequences. Killing the US president or a random stranger made no difference. Just needed a plane ticket. Mai still didn't answer. Yoru gently placed the back of his hand on her forehead. You're burning up. Letting a stranger touch her. Under normal circumstances, Mai would have dodged instantly and gotten mad. Now though, she was grateful. Moved. Relieved. From the depths of despair, hope bloomed. Not just because she was sick, but because someone could see her, recognize her, touch her. The adrenaline kicked in. Mai temporarily forgot her fever, regained a bit of strength, and stood up using the broom. Cough. You really can see me? Her voice raspy, Mai studied the master Yoru carefully. What are you talking about? Your head's burning. You're here alone? Yoru hovered his hands, ready to catch her if she fell. Come. Come with me. Somewhere private to talk. Seeing how politely he'd tested her fever earlier, Mai assumed Yoru was someone with boundaries. Someone she could cautiously trust. Her situation was dangerous. Not just from the fever. But because, in this entire world, only this man could perceive and touch her. If he had any bad intentions, she'd rather die. Okay. Yoru withdrew his hands, wearing a strange expression as he followed her. Thankfully, no one around seemed to notice. Otherwise, they'd probably think he escaped from the psych ward. Mai, fueled by adrenaline, made it to a secluded corner near the restrooms and slumped down. Yoru strode over, removed his mask, and sat beside her. Mai blinked out for a moment, forgetting what she'd wanted to say. Yoru looked too good. Just for a moment though. She met his eyes, bit her pale lip, and began to speak slowly. Her throat burned like it had been cut. Don't rush. Does your throat hurt? Yoru said softly, trying to calm her. After a moment's hesitation, he used mind reading. Mai nodded. Her guarded look wasn't as strong anymore. That's the power of good looks. If Yoru had looked like some gross old man or greasy loser, how would Mai have reacted? I'll help you. Do you still remember me? Reading her thoughts, Yoru felt her emotional chaos. He froze for a second, then spoke. First, he had to make her feel safe. Through his mind-reading ability, Yoru sensed that Mai clearly didn't recognize him. Although they weren't really familiar. Just 2 brief encounters. It was still something that could put her at ease if he said it. You know me? The thought in Mai's mind was exposed to Yoru, and her expression showed confusion. I'm Kitakami Yoru. We met twice before. Once at a bakery, and once at the station. You even lent me your transit card and gave me a signed photo. Yoru leaned in to let Mai get a good look at his face. With a high fever and slowed reactions, she was close to passing out, her mind sluggish like it was filled with glue. She just couldn't process it. This is the signed photo you gave me. Yoru stood up with a sigh, quickly pulled out his wallet, and showed her the signed picture of Mai. Ugh. Ugh. I. Cough cough cough. Cough cough. Yoru could see that she finally reacted, and quite strongly. She got so worked up trying to speak that she started coughing uncontrollably. Don't panic, don't panic. I lost weight. I'm that fat guy. Yoru sat back down in a panic, looking a bit lost as he watched her. He considered patting her back to help with the coughing, but then hesitated, feeling it might be inappropriate. Was he being too forward? It's really you. Mai coughed violently, her face reddening even more as she looked up in surprise. Yoru used to be extremely overweight. Now he was slim, with an unbelievably good-looking face. Having grown up as a child star in the entertainment industry, Mai had seen many handsome guys, but none looked as good as Yoru. They were kind of acquaintances now. The last bit of guardedness in her eyes faded away. Think carefully about what you want to say. I'll go get you some water. Yoru exhaled and gently reminded her before walking off quickly. After a few steps, he turned back, still worried, and made eye contact with Mai. It's okay. I'm here. He pressed his hand down and whispered reassuringly. Somehow, it gave her a strong sense of peace. Then he ran off. Outside, next to the trash cans, was a vending machine. Yoru inserted a coin. The machine began to operate. He crouched quickly and reached out to open the small door. Still locked. He grew a bit anxious. 10 seconds later, he finally got the water and rushed back. At the entrance, an elderly man in a wheelchair was vomiting. No one wanted to get close, and people coming in and out were stuck at the door. Yoru had no choice but to squeeze through the crowd. He got stepped on a few times, even had his shoelace come undone before making it back in. Mai stared toward the entrance. When Yoru reappeared, she finally relaxed. She had been scared. Scared that Yoru wouldn't come back. Scared that he wouldn't be able to see her again. Drink this. Take a deep breath. Relax. Yoru opened the bottle and gently brought it to her pale lips. She sipped it slowly. As the water passed down her throat, she looked up at Yoru. After she recovered a little, Yoru sat down. What I'm going to say will really shock you. So, please don't freak out, okay? Already having mentally prepared herself, Mai opened her mouth weakly, her gaze full of uncertainty as she looked at Yoru. He paused, then nodded slightly. In this entire world, only you can see me. Other than you. No one else can see me or touch me. Even the small things I touch disappear from other people's view. Her indigo eyes stared directly at Yoru as she spoke, her expression tense. Was this not shocking? Yoru's eyes flickered. He was indeed shocked. Then he thought about the mysterious golden treasure chest that appeared to him. Another strange event. I can't explain much right now. I have a fever. I need medicine. Mai placed her cold hand on her burning forehead and continued. What kind of medicine do you need? Yoru focused, asking seriously. She seemed a bit surprised by how quickly he accepted all this, but it was a good thing. Ordinary medicine won't work. I need injections. Dexamethasone, cephalexin. Cough. Ribavirin. Ambroxol. As she spoke, Mai suddenly reached out and grabbed Yoru's shirt, her eyes filled with helplessness. You know your own illness? Injections? Hearing some familiar names, Yoru remembered that he had used those when he had mild viral myocarditis. I have a high fever, yellow phlegm in my throat, violet. Cough cough cough. Violent coughing. If I don't use those meds, what else can I use? I looked it up online. As the effects of adrenaline wore off, her body couldn't hold on any longer. Time passed, the sun rose, and the temperature increased. Wearing a thick down jacket, Mai felt like she was roasting in a furnace, but she still wasn't sweating or cooling down. That won't do. Others can't see you, right? I can register for you. Ask the doctor about your symptoms. You should drink more water. Yoru took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. The more panicked he was now, the easier it would be to mess things up. No. That's not. Mai, dizzy and sluggish, could hardly think. You need to follow my instructions now. Stop bundling yourself up. Take off the jacket and drink more water. Whether bundling up helps reduce fever depends on the situation. And this definitely wasn't the right time for it. She didn't say anything because she was in such bad shape, even talking normally was a luxury. Yoru looked at her. He gently removed the down jacket from her body. She didn't cooperate, but she didn't resist either. The fever had sapped all her strength. Once the jacket was off, she felt a little better. But unless the fever dropped, it wasn't enough. Seeing a doctor isn't the problem. It's about dosage. More importantly, do you know how to administer Unfor? Yoru stood up and brought a bottle of water to her lips again as he asked. She took a few sips and slowly shook her head. Her throat moved a bit before she looked up and said, No, but there's detailed instructions online. Cough. So you. Sigh. Yoru stamped his foot anxiously, at a loss. So then. He had no choice but to try it himself. He took a deep breath and gently supported Mai, lightly patting the back of her hand to comfort her. Don't worry. I'll take care of everything. He whispered softly into her ear at her most helpless moment. His mind was racing. I'll go register and ask the doctor about your symptoms for advice. You go pick up the medicine and 4 equipment, drink more water, and I'll try to figure out how to help you with the 4? This is the only option left. You said oral meds don't work, so we'll have to take a risk. After thinking it through, Yaru looked at Mai and said, Ahem. If you don't get N4, you'll probably going to die from the fever. Is there any other option? Help me to the pharmacy. Others can't see me, but I can get the medicine myself. Mai's voice was trembling. Yoru nodded and glanced around before turning back to her. Do as you like. I don't mind if you touch me. Mai had already noticed how Yoru was deliberately avoiding any contact with her. That behavior actually made her like him even more. Besides, given the situation, she didn't mind. Alright, sorry about this. Yoru nodded lightly and picked her up in his arms. Other people couldn't see Mai, but they could see him. If he acted like he was supporting someone invisible, it would definitely draw unwanted attention and trouble. Ugh. You. Mai let out a soft gasp but didn't struggle. With her feet off the ground and her body lifted up, she crossed her arms over her chest, her expression bashful. Yoru had no other choice. He held Mai in his arms and headed toward the pharmacy. To onlookers, it probably looked like he was arrogantly striding along with his arms crossed. My condition is. Mai quickly regained focus and got back to the main issue. Fortunately, the pharmacy door wasn't locked. It was left open. Of course, no one would go in there. Take it slow. Hold the wall for support when you go inside. Yoru carried her close to the pharmacy and gave her a gentle reminder. Mai nodded lightly. But as soon as Yoru set her down, a sense of panic returned. This is insane. Another supernatural incident. Yoru gave her a gentle pat on the shoulder before hurrying off toward the emergency department. Originally, today was just supposed to be an ordinary day. He was planning to grab his physical checkup report and then report to Shuchin Academy. But instead, he ended up running into a gorgeous girl. Sakura Jimimai. In the entire world, he was the only one who could see her. And of all times, she had to be sick. Oral medicine wasn't working. She needed N4 drip. The diagnosis wasn't the problem. It was the 4 itself. Phew. After rushing to the Yaru quickly got a number unqueued up. Maybe it was Mai's luck, but there were only a few people ahead. After about 10 minutes, Yaru entered and explained the situation to the doctor. He made up a lie. He said there was a disabled person at home who couldn't make it to the hospital. The local community doctor couldn't figure out the exact cause and wasn't sure about the dosage. He suspected it might be a viral infection. The doctor didn't seem too skeptical. Technically, since the patient wasn't present, the doctor could have refused to diagnose. But in the end, Yaru managed to get the doctor's treatment recommendation without much trouble. No prescription, though. He couldn't legally write one. The diagnosis: viral infection, high fever, and a secondary bacterial infection in the lungs. It wasn't looking great. The fever had once reached 40 degrees Celsius. Still, it matched Mai's own guesses. Maybe due to emotional stress, weakened immunity, poor eating, irregular sleep. She just got sick. Honestly, this kind of thing is pretty normal. Yoru recalled how he once collapsed from stress-induced high blood pressure and shortness of breath, that crushing sense of helplessness and despair. He truly empathized with Mai. At the time, he was saved by Chika. Meanwhile, back in the pharmacy, Mai found the 4 meds she needed. She also grabbed the necessary tools and packed them into a bag. She was completely forcing her body to move. Cough cough. Cough cough. Cough cough. It's fine. I'm fine. Just then, Yoru rushed back and gently patted her back to soothe her cough. Mai nodded and looked at him, asking silently with her eyes. Just as you suspected. But how exactly am I supposed to give you N4? At this point, Yaru was stumped. He'd never actually done it, though he had it done to him before. The general idea was simple, but doing it was another story. I've studied it online. Don't worry. If I don't get the 4, I'll be even worse. Cough cough. Her coughing grew intense. A lung quart would probably help. Too bad that wasn't an option right now. Can you hang on a bit? I'll try to learn it quickly. Of course Yoru couldn't take any big risks. Mai figured she could hold out a little longer. I'll watch and you can teach me at the same time. Yoru nodded, picked her up again, and brought her back to their original spot. Mai, hands trembling, opened the bag. Inside were disposable 4 supplies, the medication, and a box of fever-reducing patches. Yoru grabbed a patch, looked at the nearly unconscious Mai, and hurriedly opened the box. He quickly pulled one out and placed it on her forehead. She was burning up. Mai narrowed her eyes. Her eyelids stung from the heat, painful and irritated. Yoru pulled out his phone. Thankfully, the internet was always there to help. He looked up animated demos and real-life videos on how to insert and for. He was incredibly nervous, his body stiff with tension. Even after applying the patch, Mai didn't feel much better, but she forced herself to stay conscious. 10 minutes passed. Yoru disinfected both his own and Mai's hands, applied iodine, picked up the purple needle, and searched for a vein on the back of her hand. The foreline was connected to the drip chamber and tied to a broomstick held upright. The hardest part was inserting the needle. A backflow of blood, hitting the wrong vein. That was where the danger lay. Everything else was fine, the dosage had been prescribed by the doctor. Don't rush. Take your time. Mai, extremely weak, still tried to comfort Yoru. After several failed attempts, Yoru finally got it in. He pressed the drip regulator and set it to 20 drops per minute. Huff. 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 When everything was done, Yoru slumped into a seat, breathing heavily. Not just physically tired. He was mentally exhausted. Looks like it worked. Mai was finally safe. She visibly relaxed, her body feeling noticeably better. I'll go take another look, just to be sure. Yoru stood up again, leaving those words behind as he walked off. He was still uneasy. He wanted to see how the nurses were doing it, and how the elderly patients receiving IVs looked. Mai stared blankly after him. As his footsteps faded, fear surged up again. She didn't want the four anymore. She just wanted Yoru to come back. Don't leave me. Less than 10 minutes later, Yoru came running back. To Mai, who had been counting every second like a year, her eyes lit up, her nose stung. And tears fell. I'm here. I'll stay with you. If you're tired, go ahead and rest. Yoru gently wiped away her tears with a tissue, comforting her softly. Her body and mind had long since reached their breaking point. If Yoru hadn't been there today, she might have died already. If you want to sleep, go ahead. I'll stay by your side. Chapter 84, Yoru gently patted Mai's fragrant shoulder, then took hold of her other hand. I only have you now. Don't leave me. Delirious with fever, Mai spoke in a soft voice full of ambiguity. Yoru didn't take it seriously. But in truth, it was the truth. Mai, who had vanished from the eyes of the entire world, only had Yoru left. To her, it felt like dying of thirst in the desert and suddenly discovering a lush, safe oasis. Yeah. Don't worry. Yoru carefully studied Mai. Her silver gray long hair, a pink bunny hair clip. Sweat. Wait. Only now did Yoru remember he had to report to Shuchin Academy today. It was already nearly 11. Forget it, I can report any time. He looked at Mai, who had closed her eyes and was dozing off, nearly asleep, and sighed. He sent messages to Hiretsuka-sensei, Megumi, Gabriel, and Nanami. He had something to deal with for now. He couldn't just leave Mai here to die, could he? Yoru could swear to the heavens that it wasn't because Mai was beautiful that he decided to help her. If it were someone else, he would still lend a hand. Though, maybe not go this far. Besides, looking at the sleeping Mai again, Yoru muttered, if only I could get her to help me. Even dig up some dirt on the Shinomiya conglomerate, hidden accounts, business plans. There are other top-tier conglomerates in Japan besides the Shinomiya family. And depending on that, we'll see if Shinomiya Kaguya is willing to apologize and compensate me. Yoru wasn't someone who held petty grudges. What he did to Ariri was purely because she brought it on herself. It was all her fault. She nearly got him killed. Sighing, Yoru went out and bought a bottle of coffee, then silently waited for the four to finish. It would take at least 2 hours. He took a sip of coffee and rubbed his temples. He was truly exhausted and tense. And hungry. Back then, Fujiwara Chika was probably even more exhausted. My condition was worse, the reports were endless, and she was the one running around. But she never asked me for anything in return. Yoru downed the coffee and laced his fingers behind his head. Afternoon. 37.8 degrees Celsius. A mild fever. Yoru looked at the thermometer and spoke to Mai. She'd fallen asleep during the 4 drip, and he hadn't woken her up. How long was I asleep? Mai sat up. Her body felt a lot lighter now, though her head was still a bit fuzzy. Over 4 hours. Get some more rest. Yoru put the thermometer away and stood up. No. Don't go. Startled, Mai instinctively rose and grabbed the hem of Yoru's shirt. Huh? Yoru froze. Sorry. Embarrassed, she let go. Even she didn't know why she reacted like that. I'm just going to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Don't be afraid. Yoru stepped closer, gently pressed her shoulders, and pushed her back into the chair with a soft voice. Then, unable to hold it any longer, he dashed to the restroom and quickly returned, leaving Mai alone for a bit. What did I just do? Her flushed face, which had finally calmed down, blushed again in an instant. God. What had gotten into her? Why was she so flustered? Also, he was too good looking. When Yoru gently pushed her down, she'd been staring at his face the whole time. Only now did she snap out of it. Yoru returned in under a minute. Where do you live? I'll take you home. Yoru asked. Sorry for the trouble. I live near Shuchin Academy, by Platinum Takamatsu Station. I'm also a student there. Sakurajimamai nodded and stood up. Let's talk outside. I feel like the nurses are giving me strange looks. Yoru twisted his mouth. Hey. Mai let out a soft laugh. Her fever had almost subsided. Though still a bit warm, she could walk just fine. She had medicine at home. She followed Yoru out of the hospital lobby. They sat down in a quiet corner before talking again. So, what's going on with you? Yoru asked curiously. About half a year ago, I noticed people started ignoring me sometimes. Then, I met you at the station. Then it became like this. Mai stared at Yoru as if trying to figure something out. After finishing a shoot, she had bumped into Yoru at the station, and from then on, no one could see her anymore. I see. That's really strange. Yoru had no intention of revealing the secret of the golden chest. I even thought about killing myself. Mai glanced sideways at Yoru. She could smell the sour sweat on herself, so she sipped some water and subtly scooted a bit farther away. That is. She stammered, trying to continue. If you've got something to say, just say it. Yoru wasn't in a rush to go to school since he'd already taken leave. Could you maybe take care of me for a few days? She knew she couldn't take care of herself like this. Her only hope was Yoru. Don't worry, I still have money. I can pay you. Maybe fearing rejection, she quickly added that part. This beautiful actress who'd started as a child star, won countless awards, and was one of the hottest names in the entertainment industry. Even she was now worried about being rejected by a guy? If I take care of you, can you do something for me? Yoru looked at her and cautiously asked. You want to do me? Wait, no. Do what? Mai completely misinterpreted Yoru's serious expression. No. It's something else. I won't hurt you. I'm not that kind of person. Yoru quickly waved his hands. Did what he said really sound that ambiguous? Then why do you say it like that? I thought you meant you. Mai hugged her knees and buried her head in them. Anyway, just focus on getting better. I'm not in a rush. Let's see how things go. Yoru responded with a helpless smile. I knew you were a good guy, Yoru-kun. Mai peeked at him with just her eyes. Senpai, I don't want to be a good guy. Let's go home, get out of the open. Yoru stood up and dusted off his pants. Mai got up as well, but her legs had no strength. In the end, Yoru had to help her up. Can you walk on your own? He pulled out his phone to call a cab. If I hold your shirt, I can. Mai followed behind, clutching the hem of Yoru's shirt. The taxi, hazard lights blinking, pulled up by the curb. Yoru opened the door, got in first, then leaned out to grab Mai by the wrist and pulled her inside. Why is your fever back again so soon? Didn't it go down just a while ago? Now it's hot again? Muttering, Yoru shut the door. The taxi drove off. Mai rested her head against the window, staring at the scenery flowing past, cheeks flushed red. Maybe the high fever had fried her brain. Only now did she fully recall how Yoru had treated her that morning, how she cried and begged him not to leave her. Now that her fever had mostly subsided, her mind was clear again. Embarrassment and shame burst forth inside her. After a 30-minute ride, Yoru helped the weak Mai down from the car and to the entrance of her apartment building. It was a tall tower. A place for the wealthy. He thought getting in would be difficult since buildings like this usually had tight security. But Mai pulled out the resident key. They took the elevator all the way up. Yoru opened the door and helped her inside. He took off his own shoes first, then helped her take off her brown leather loafers. A pair of cute feet wrapped in black stockings appeared, toes reinforced, slightly sour but still adorable. A pungent smell of pickled cabbage filled the air. Yoru felt like he had walked into a sauerkraut processing plant. Ugh. A cuck. Yoru suddenly gagged twice. You. What are you doing? I just sweat a lot. Isn't that normal? Mortified, Mai stiffly tried to save face. She had worn these socks for 3 days, too sick with a fever to change them. She'd deliberately bundled herself up to sweat the fever out these past 3 days, sweating buckets in the process. Not only her feet. Her whole body had been sweating non-stop, soaked and stuffy. Of course it would stink. My foot fetish is officially cured. Yoru held his breath and quickly helped Mai into her room, thinking that to himself. The room was plainly furnished. A few of Mai's posters hung on the wall, along with a family photo in a frame. Go out for a minute. I'm going to change. Turn on the bathroom heater too. I need a shower. You're still holding your breath. If you keep this up, I'll stuff it in your mouth. Mai sat back on the bed and glared at Yoru, grinding her teeth in annoyance. Senpai, I'm really sorry. Maybe my nose is just too sensitive. Yoru forced out a smile and quickly stepped out of the room. Humphrey. Mai let out a reluctant huff, but once Yoru left, her face turned bright red and she dove under the covers. She mumbled frantically to herself. A while later, she crawled out and wiped the cold sweat off her forehead. The hormone meds were strong. No point holding back if you couldn't handle it. The fever's finally gone. She lifted her wrist to check the needle mark, thinking of how focused and nervous Yoru had been while giving her the injection. Then she quickly dove back under the blanket, forming a lump on the bed. Yoru, now outside, took deep breaths. He examined her home and found the shower room, turning on the heater. Meanwhile, retching sounds came from her room. A few moments later, Mai emerged, holding clean clothes in her arms. I'm a little hungry. Can you check the fridge for something to eat? She forced herself to sound calm. Got it. Just take your shower. Don't soak too long. Yoru gave a quick reminder. Mai nodded and stepped into the bathroom. Yoru went to the fridge. It was nearly empty. There were a few bentos that looked edible, but they'd been sitting there almost a week. Not suitable for a patient. Especially oily food. I'd better go buy some ingredients. Taking the resident key, Yoru left the tower. Just a few hundred meters away was a shopping plaza with a supermarket. Yoru looked up some recipes, bought what he needed, and returned. As he stepped back into the building and got into the elevator. From the opposite elevator, Yukino stepped out. Back at the entrance, Yoru held his breath as he picked up Mai's cute brown shoes and neatly placed them on the rack. Then he carried the groceries into the kitchen. He planned to make some kanji and also stew some snow pears in rock sugar to soothe her lungs. After washing his hands, Yoru sniffed his fingers. No smell. Eku. Mai, furiously scrubbing her snow-white feet with soap and a brush in the shower, sneezed. She came out after finishing her bath. Yoru's kanji was ready. Come eat something. He had only made enough for two. It would cook faster that way. They hadn't eaten anything since morning, and it was already 4 p.m. They had burned a lot of energy too. Smells so good. Mai's stomach had been growling non-stop. She quickly walked over. Yoru served 2 bowls of nourishing kanji and sat down to eat. Did you turn on the heater? She asked as she sat, hearing the air conditioner running. I didn't want you to get cold after the bath. Give it a minute and your body will adjust. Yoru spooned a bite into his mouth, then added, I also made snow pear with rock sugar. Once we finish eating, it should be ready. Then you can sleep. You're leaving? Under the table, Mai's soft feet had been brushing against his. Now they stopped, and she froze. Where else would I stay? Yoru shrugged and shot the question back at her. But I don't want you to leave. I'm scared. You can sleep here. There are plenty of rooms. She had debated this in the shower. After months of isolation, she had finally found someone she could talk to. An actual living person. Yoru had helped her several times, and he was good-looking. She didn't deny she already felt a bit drawn to him, and she really wanted someone to talk to. So she hoped Yoru would stay. Really? Yoru looked genuinely surprised. I'm only keeping you here to take care of me. Don't get any funny ideas. Mai narrowed her deep blue eyes slightly in warning. But you're not scared? I'm the only one in the world who can see you, senpai. Yoru blinked, inching his face closer. He didn't even realize how handsome and charming he really was. You. Ugh. Mai curled her toes beneath the table, then quickly lifted her bowl and took a sip of kanji. She meant to hide her embarrassment. But the flavor of the kanji was unexpectedly delicious. Night fell, stars twinkling outside. As the hormone medication wore off, Mai's fever and coughing returned. But her condition had clearly improved. 38.3 degrees Celsius. Take your medicine and sleep. Yoru handed her a glass of water. I can't sleep. Talk with me. Mai spoke while taking the glass of water. Even though she had a fever again, she looked spirited. She took the medicine with the warm water and shook her head. Yoru didn't leave, quietly looking at Mai lying under the blanket. Do you have a younger sister? After a moment of silence, Mai slowly opened her mouth. No, I'm an only child. I've never experienced the joy of having siblings. Yoru replied. I have a younger sister. Half-sister actually. But she doesn't seem to like me. Mai turned her body and looked at Yoru. Why? Yoru pulled a chair over and sat down. I don't know. I actually really like her. Cough, cough. Mai let out 2 light coughs. Is she jealous that you're a big celebrity? So she doesn't like you? Yoru responded casually. After all, they were half related. Jealous? Probably not. Besides, I don't even want to be a celebrity. Mai reached her hand out from under the blanket. You don't want to be? Yoru looked surprised. Didn't she start working in showbiz since she was a child? My mom is my agent, and my dad is a famous director. Cough, cough. My job. It's all been her. Mai coughed again, lifted the blanket, and got up to drink some water. Why don't you resist? You have money. You're an adult. You could totally live on your own. Yoru seemed puzzled. Everyone grows up differently. Their thoughts, values, and ways of handling people are all different. She's my mom. Mai did want to talk things out with her mother. After drinking water, she sat cross-legged on the bed. Don't worry. Maybe one day things will get better. Yoru comforted her gently, glancing at the family photo on the wall. Sure enough, he saw a blonde girl standing beside Mai. What do you want me to help with? When she heard Yoru say that, Mai already had her suspicions. It must be something that required taking advantage of her current situation. Yoru looked at her, trying to compose himself, but his gaze was unconsciously drawn to her bare feet. At first, Mai thought Yoru was thinking deeply, but then she realized he was staring at her feet. In that instant, she remembered what had happened that afternoon. What are you looking at? Embarrassed, Mai dove back under the blanket and hid her feet, scolding Yoru. He caught a whiff of her stinky feet. How humiliating. Sorry, Sakurajima-senpai. Yoru gave an apologetic smile, bending over and resting his chin on his hand. I'm warning you, stop staring. And enough about me, let's talk about you. Mai first warned him through gritted teeth, then looked him over with a curious gaze. He used to be a big fatty, but now he's ridiculously handsome. I have a body type that gains weight easily. I gain fast and lose fast. I lost it all recently. Fast to gain, fast to lose. Yoru shrugged indifferently, but his expression wasn't exactly cheerful. You're not happy about losing weight? Mai asked. Even if I lost weight, I'm still not good looking. Ugh. Yoru scratched his head awkwardly and forced a smile. PFFT. Mai nearly spat out blood. Thank God she was a worldly celebrity and also sick, or she would have already fallen for that smile and blushed secretly. You look this good and still think you're not attractive? She took a deep breath and rolled her eyes. Beautifully. She couldn't even bring herself to look directly at Yoru, especially when he smiled and spoke gently like he did during the day. She'd get too shy. I look good? Yoru touched his face in disbelief. Of course. Haven't you noticed? Mai frowned slightly and looked him over again. No way. With that melancholy aura and doubtful expression. He looked amazing. I've been fat my whole life. People would mock me, call me ugly, disgusting, fat nerd. I only lost weight recently, and even when I look in the mirror, I still can't really see it. Yoru's tone grew slightly emotional. Cough. Then let me tell you clearly. You. Mai looked at him sincerely, clearly wanting to express it. But halfway through her words, she found herself unable to finish. Yoru just looked too good. Too charming. She felt like if she told the truth, she'd get embarrassed. Such a weird feeling. She felt oddly shy and ashamed. So she backed off a bit, cutting her words by a lot, and said something she didn't really mean. You look. Not bad. Kind of handsome. MMHMM. Really? Yoru stood up in surprise, eyes shining. When he got a haircut recently and looked in the mirror, he thought he might be a little handsome. Then he dismissed it as wishful thinking. Turns out, he did inherit his mom's good genes. Humphrey. Mai turned her head and let out a small snort. Her pink toes twisted at the bedsheet under the blanket, bored. Yoru was a bit excited and happy. His mood soared. I'm going to sleep. Pick a room and sleep wherever. Mai lost interest in chatting and pulled the blanket over herself. Get some rest. You'll need another for tomorrow. Call me if anything comes up. Yoru calmed down and moved the chair away. Good night. If you try a night raid, you're dead. Mai looked at Yoru one last time, still nervous deep down. It was her first time letting a guy stay over. Good night. If Sakurajima-senpai washes her feet clean, I might raid at night. Yoru stepped back to the door, turned off the light, and joked cheerfully. Go die, pervert. Mai was instantly triggered at that sore spot and turned over in shame and frustration. Yoru left. He found an empty room, turned on the lights, and lay down. Couldn't sleep. Too much had happened today. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about Mai. His mind wandered to a pure love Jin. They had a situation similar to Sakurajima Mai, except she was cursed by black magic. And the way to lift it was to do it with the male lead 100 times. Meanwhile, the bedside lamp glowed faintly in soft yellow light. The room fell completely silent. Mai sat up cross-legged again, touched her forehead, and looked out at the starry night sky. If she stayed like this forever, how should she interact with Yoru? That was something she needed to seriously think about now. The first day of the new semester. First period, after class. Shuchin Academy returned to its usual liveliness. Classmates who hadn't seen each other all summer, boys and girls alike, gathered in groups, chatting about interesting things that happened during their vacation and sharing travel photos. Aoyama Nanami slouched over her desk, yawning out of boredom. She listened to the buzz of conversations around her ears perking up with curiosity, a little envious. Her summer had been spent either working part-time or practicing her voice acting and preparing for exams. It had been a fulfilling break. But on the very first day back, bad luck landed right on her head. After the seat rearrangement. In the seat diagonally in front of her on the right, sitting in front of her new desk partner, was Candice Orata. Ever since the time Candice Orata had pretended to be her boyfriend and spun a web of lies just to confront Yoru, Nanami had come to loathe him completely. The more she looked at him, the more furious she became. What bad luck. Feeling annoyed, Nanami muttered softly in Sorata's direction. Was Aoyama-san just looking at me? Sorata had been secretly watching the girl he had a crush on. Aoyama Nanami. Not seeing her all summer, he'd been desperate to meet her again. It's been months. Surely she's not mad at me anymore, right? Should I go say hi? Sorata had been thinking this since last semester. Time heals all wounds, right? With that thought in mind, he tried to relax, stretching his waist while sneakily glancing at Nanami. The girl of his dreams was right there in front of him. After a moment of hesitation, Sorata fixed his hair and flashed what he thought was a handsome smile. Good morning, Aoyama-san. It's been a whole summer. Sorata stood up and stepped over to Nanami's side. Do you need something? A brief flicker of disgust flashed in Nanami's eyes. I just wanted to say hi. Sorata smiled, thinking that if Nanami was willing to talk to him, he could humble himself. I don't want to talk to you, and I don't want you saying hi either. Please get out of my sight. Nanami sat up straight, her expression cold, showing no friendliness to Sorata, who had come over to greet her. She was stubborn. Stubborn enough to fight with her own family and refuse to go home. Why would she care about someone like Sorata? As soon as she spoke, Sorata, who had still been blissfully daydreaming, was frozen on the spot, utterly embarrassed. Even a little furious. He'd done it all for her, after all. And yet she wouldn't even show him a kind expression. Still hanging out with that disgusting fat slob who was even a known thief. Everyone hated that guy. Aoyama-san, I just don't get it. Why do you insist on staying with Kitakami? He's just a disgusting fat slob. Ugly, and he even stole Kasumijoka Utaha-senpai's stockings and panties. I'm doing this for your sake. I can even apologize. Sorata started complaining, gradually raising his voice. As soon as Nanami showed a reaction, he kept going, exaggerating further. You really don't need to give me that kind of attitude, do you? That disgusting slob didn't even came to school today. Early in the morning, Sorata had leaned on the balcony railing, waiting for Nanami to arrive, hoping to catch a glimpse of her. But he didn't see Yoru. Nanami sat up, took a light breath, and looked up. Are you finished? Huh? I said, are you done? Sorata, caught off guard, nodded in surprise. Then get lost. And don't you dare badmouth my friend, you bastard. Oh, Nanami's expression turned fierce as she glared and warned Sorata, correcting his insult toward her friend, Yoru. That was exactly why she despised him so much. Some people are just self-righteous. They believe something is good and force that belief on others under the guise of caring. Even if the other person doesn't want it. Or worse, gets hurt by it. They'll still think that person is just crazy or ungrateful. Aoyama-san, what did you say? Sorata shouted in surprise, raising his voice. Several classmates nearby turned to look, curiosity sparked as they began eavesdropping. As the center of attention, Nanami focused only on Sorata. I have nothing to do with you. Stop bothering me already, Candice Orata. She raised her voice too. You'd rather be friends with Kitakami than me? How did that disgusting slob trick you, Aoyama-san? Sorata tried to hold back his anger but yelled in frustration. You! I've told you a million times, stop bad-mouthing my friend. And Kitakami-kun has never lied to me. You, on the other hand, did lie to me. Nanami was furious. She snapped back at Sorata, practically shouting. What started as a debate turned into a full-blown shouting match. The entire class turned to watch them argue. The name Kitakami, that disgusting fat slob, coming from both Nanami and Candice Orata's mouths, drew everyone's attention. In the minds of the onlookers, a greasy, repulsive image began forming. A few girls even got goosebumps and looked visibly disgusted. Aoyama Nanami, are you crazy? Sorata roared. You're the one who keeps bothering me. You're the crazy one, disgusting freak. Nanami flinched at the outburst, but quickly regained composure and yelled back. You even pretended to be my boyfriend. You're the disgusting one. And just to drive the nail in, she shouted it even louder. Her voice was so loud it carried into the next classroom. The students around them started whispering and gossiping. There was something like that? Kanda pretended to be Aoyama's boyfriend? Wow, I didn't realize Kanda had a thing for Aoyama until now. Didn't you catch what she said? That Kitakami is her friend? Haha, that's hilarious. A guy getting chewed out that bad by a girl. What the boys were saying was very different from what the girls were whispering about. Aoyama Nanami's friends with that fat slob? That's gross. She's from the impure category, right? Of course she hangs out with those kinds of people. I see her working part-time a lot. Her family must be poor. Do you think she's doing compensated dating? The girls were far more gossipy, forming little cliques with clear class divisions, speculating in whispers. One dorm room with 4 girls could still have 8 different gossip circles. Nanami had always stood out in class. She didn't have any close friends among her classmates, and people didn't really know her. Naturally, no one wanted to stand up for her. You're spouting nonsense. When did I ever pretend to be your boyfriend? Sorata snapped out of it, realizing all the stares on him. For the sake of pride, he dug in his heels. You wanted to chase me, so you made up rumors, pretended to be my boyfriend. And now you denying it? Fueled by anger, Nanami shouted back without noticing all the stares and whispers around her. You? Is Kanda really that gross? Chasing after a country bumpkin from Kansai? Lame. Keep going, this is getting good. Voices once again filled the classroom. I didn't. And it's laughable you say that. When you became friends with Kitakami. I don't get how you were even fooled by him. Don't you feel disgusted being around him? Sorata, flustered and red in the face, blurted out without thinking. Kanda Sorata, you bastard. Get lost. Kitakami-kun isn't disgusting at all. You're the disgusting one. Actually, I think he's a decent guy. You're the one who's ugly. Nanami glared at Sorata, her face flushed with anger, shouting back fiercely in defense of Yoru, her friend. She was livid. She couldn't accept Sorata talking trash about Yoru, especially after denying that he pretended to be her boyfriend. She looked like she wanted to keep arguing, opening her mouth, but aside from bastard, she couldn't think of anything else to say. While the two of them were having a heated exchange, a nearby group of girls were already buzzing with chatter. Wait, what? Aoyama Nanami is actually friends with a Kitakami fatty? Is she crazy? Isn't that gross? I think Kanda saw her hanging out with him and went to check on her, only to get yelled at. Would any normal girl hang out with that gross fat guy? There has to be some hidden reason. What if Aoyama was doing Injokozai compensated dating, with Yoru, and Kanda just happened to catch them? Then she used the we're friends excuse to cover it up? No way. Injokozai. Well, she really does look strapped for cash. I've seen her working part-time a lot. Could it be true? Their chatter soon reached the ears of the boys nearby. Teenage boys don't exactly think before they speak. Especially when it comes to juicy rumors about a classmate involved in compensated dating. Oh. I remember now. During finals, I saw Aoyama walking with Kitakami. I thought they were just walking close together or something. You're telling me it was actually Injokozai? I heard Aoyama's from Osaka, and people from Kansai are all super materialistic. Most of the girls doing that kind of thing in Ikebukuro are from there. If she's really doing Injokozai, is she that poor? Didn't she get a scholarship to Shuchin? How did she stomach being with that pig? Isn't that disgusting? Even the client was gross. At that moment, the rumors about Aoyama doing Injokozai with Yoru spread through the classroom like wildfire. In just a minute or two. Only then did Aoyama realize what was happening. Her face turned pale, and she looked completely overwhelmed. How had a simple argument with Sorata turned into this? Yoru had actually expected something like this. When he first met Gabriel, he'd worried people would gossip about her being seen with him at school. But Gabriel didn't care at all. Strangely enough, those worries never came true with Gabriel. Instead, they ended up happening with Nanami. Even though they'd only been classmates for 1 semester, Nanami, who balanced school and part-time work, was always quiet and distant in her classmates' eyes. She never really fit in. And in a school like Shuchin, where social class divides are sharp, Tokyo students look down on anyone from outside the city. Even within Tokyo, there's a clear pecking order. Because she was smart and attractive, people didn't bully her directly. But now things were different. Nanami had become a target. Like a dog fallen into the river. Some people just loved to kick her while she was down. Aoyama. Sorata realized things were getting out of control. How had this turned into Aoyama being accused of doing Njokozai with Kitakami? The worst part was, as he followed the thread of gossip, he started to imagine it himself. And his expression grew increasingly twisted. A crowd of students gathered, and someone noticed Kanda's conflicted face. Aoyama, you didn't actually. With Kitakami. If the girl you secretly liked actually did Njokozai for money, Sorata felt like he might just die from frustration. No. I didn't. I didn't do anything like that. Kitakami-kun and I are just friends. What are you all saying? Dozens of skeptical eyes locked onto her. Nanami's innocent heart was rattled with anxiety and panic. The more she tried to explain, the worse it looked. To everyone watching, it only seemed more like the truth. If yelling could fix things, Yoru wouldn't have nearly gotten expelled. Wait, did she actually do it? If you're gonna do Njokozai, at least pick someone better. Aren't you worried he'll crush you? Ugh, stop talking. I'm gonna throw up just thinking about that fat pig's face. Kanda, did you fall for a sugar baby? Almost the entire class had gathered around, surrounding Aoyama in the center, tossing out cruel speculation and disgusted comments. Sorata slipped away awkwardly, his face uncomfortable and stiff. Everyone saw his reaction and assumed it confirmed the rumors. No one bothered checking facts. They just fully believed whatever someone else had said. No. This isn't true. How did it end up like this? Don't say that stuff. Kitakami-kun and I are just friends. I'm not doing Njokozai. You need proof to say stuff like that. Don't make things up. And besides, I think Kitakami-kun's really good looking. He's not ugly or gross at all. Her face was drained of color. She waved her hands in panic, not knowing where to put them. And she wasn't wrong. Yoru really was handsome. Ridiculously so. If he were at school right now, and the girls saw how slim he had become. He only needed to smile, and they'd either shyly lower their heads or scream in excitement. They might even throw themselves at him. But he wasn't here. And now, vicious words and stares were like arrows, piercing into a defenseless girl. Nanami, who had argued with her family to chase her dream of becoming a voice actress, who came to Tokyo alone, who lived in poverty, sometimes didn't have money for food, who studied hard despite everything and secretly cried at night in bed. Her pain, her struggle, her effort. All 10 times more than her peers. What? Aoyama, are you crazy? You think that gross pig is good looking? Seriously? Ugh. Disgusting. She's just a sugar baby. Bleg. Scorn came at her from every direction. Nanami, proud and sensitive, couldn't take it anymore. She sat down with her head in her hands, trembling all over. She was furious. Confused. Helpless. Overwhelmed. She couldn't speak. She couldn't fight back. Just when she was about to break, the class bell rang. Saving her from completely breaking down. To someone as proud as Nanami, being labeled a sugar baby in front of the whole class felt worse than death. It was humiliating. It was cruel. Even as the class dispersed, eyes still lingered on her. All across the classroom, words like sugar baby, gross, whore, gold digger, and bitch echoed like crashing waves. Chapter 85. What started as a small argument had spiraled into loud accusations, and now a full-blown rumor that she'd done compensated dating with Yoru. Nanami didn't even understand how it had come to this. She hadn't wanted to engage with Sorata at all. Just seeing him made her sick. But when he insulted Yoru right in front of her, her kind and straightforward nature couldn't accept that. And so she argued back. Why? Why am I being called a sugar baby? Kitakami-kun and I are just friends. Why do they think that? Ugh. Ha. Ugh. On the podium, the teacher had already started using the projector for the lesson, but Nanami, normally a top student, had no energy to pay attention. She buried her face in her arms on the desk, overwhelmed and heartbroken. Her chest ached. Her eyes were red. She cried quietly, trying not to let anyone hear. Even in class. Poor, helpless Nanami still didn't realize the full destructive power of a rumor. One false accusation can ruin a life. Just as it can destroy even the most successful corporations. Years ago, monosodium glutamate, message, was beloved when it hit the market, embraced by families everywhere, until a rumor ruined its reputation entirely. Rumors spread. School was like a semi-enclosed mini-society. Students weren't mentally mature. They often spoke without thinking, driven by a strong desire to gossip and share drama. And besides, they weren't the ones getting hurt. In just a few short minutes between classes, the rumor had already spread throughout the classroom, reaching everyone's ears. And then, the teacher was seriously lecturing and explaining problems. Nanami could barely stand it. She just wanted to find a quiet place to be alone. Eventually, she lifted her head. The corners of her eyes were slightly red. Clearly, she had cried. All of this? Nanami rubbed her eyes and sat up straight, glaring angrily at Sorata. She had figured it out. If she hadn't brought up Yoru earlier, none of this would have happened. But she didn't regret it. Nanami didn't regret standing up for her friend, for Yoru, and snapping back at Sorata. She sniffled softly, opened her textbook, and tried hard to clear her head of all the noise and negativity. Just then, from some unknown corner of the classroom, a wad of paper flew in a graceful arc through the air. A pretty accurate throw. It hit Nanami right on the head. Clearly intentional. She instinctively sensed it, reached up to touch her head, and heard a faint sound. She quickly noticed the paper ball had rolled onto her desk. Who did that? She fumed silently, looking around angrily. Most students were focused on class and hadn't noticed her. A few, however, who caught her gaze, returned it with eyes full of shock, disdain, and mockery. She had admitted herself that she was friends with Yoru. Would any normal person be friends with some disgusting fat loser, a guy who stole Senior Utaha's stockings and underwear? Come on. Ask yourself. Could you respect someone like that? Even in prison, this kind of criminal ranked among the lowest. Only human traffickers were worse. Even other inmates looked down on that type. And Nanami, who was actually a pretty girl, chose to be friends with Yoru. Add in the way everyone was gossiping and how Sorata reacted. Nanami always worked part-time jobs, clearly showing she was broke and struggling. If she hung around with Yoru, it wasn't hard to assume she was engaged in compensated dating. To those who had no idea what was really going on, it looked like Sorata discovered she might be doing in Joko's eye, tried to check on her, and she covered it up by saying Yoru was just a friend. But her excuse was way too weak. Everyone, take note of this problem. The geography teacher's voice suddenly cut through the noise as he tapped on the desk. Nanami flinched slightly, glanced at the multimedia projection, and muttered as she unfolded the paper ball. It was a small note, the handwriting messy but neat. Clearly written by a girl. One glance at its contents, and her face flushed red with anger and embarrassment. But she had no idea how to respond. How could she explain this? The note asked how much she charged for one night. And whether she could even breathe with that fat pig on top of her? Besides those two questions, there were a few ha-ha-ha. Written as well. Mocking laughter. In that moment, it felt like the words on the paper had come to life. They leapt out and bounced straight into her ears, playing on loop inside her mind. And no. It's not. Not like that. Her mind went blank for a few seconds. Her face twisted up then loosened again. She couldn't control her facial muscles. Her mouth half open, brows furrowed, she nearly broke down crying. But it was still class time. She quickly crumpled the note into a ball, threw it away, and slammed her head down on her desk. Like a startled ostrich hiding in the sand. Why were people being so cruel? Was it just because she was from Osaka? Or went to a vocational school? Or didn't fit in? Or was it because they hated Yoru, and by extension, started hating her too? No. I have to stay strong. This isn't how things really are. She sniffled softly, biting down on her lower lip to keep herself from crying again. As long as Yoru's issue gets cleared up. Once Yoru comes back to school, and everyone sees how he is now, everything will be okay. The rumors will collapse on their own. Yes. That's right. That's exactly it. The helpless, defeated, despairing look in her eyes quickly faded, replaced by light and determination. As long as Kitakami-kun comes to school and everyone sees him, the misunderstanding will be cleared. Nanami broke into a teary smile, wiping her eyes. Her heart didn't feel as heavy anymore. What she didn't know was that when Yoru came back this time, he'd also clear his name of the theft accusation. In the classroom, quite a few students were secretly watching her. Seeing her sudden mood shift, they couldn't help but feel confused. Calming down, Nanami picked up her pen and quickly copied down the problems from the multimedia screen. But the class was nearing its end. A few minutes later, the bell rang. The teacher didn't delay at all, packed up his things, and left. Since the next class hadn't started yet, Nanami, still sniffling, continued copying furiously. Once the teacher left, the classroom burst back into noisy chatter. Nanami also felt the weight of gazes turning toward her again. They're talking about me again. She grumbled unhappily and scribbled faster, her hand trembling slightly. Emotional trauma and depression weren't things that healed instantly. At that moment, a group of girls with some status in the class chatted quietly among themselves, then approached Nanami together. Seeing this, many curious students or those about to go to the restroom also drifted closer. Nanami, are you really friends with that Yoru guy? The girl asking was the class rep, her tone somewhat concerned. Wasn't there a misunderstanding? There's no misunderstanding. Nanami paused her pen, replying without even lifting her head. As the crowd surrounded her, her barely settled emotions started to stir again. Frustration and anger rising. What, just did compensated dating because you needed money? Yeah, exactly. Who else would hang out with that fat creep if not for paid stuff? Hey, what made you think selling yourself was the answer? Ha ha ha. So when Kanda caught you, you just used the we're friends excuse, right? The others weren't so kind. They all piled on, kicking her while she was down. They were still annoyed by her earlier bold response and assumed she was faking it. If you deny being friends with Kitakami now, it might still work. Maybe it really was a misunderstanding. The class rep leaned in close and whispered into Nanami's ear. She herself was starting to doubt. Nanami did seem pretty poor. Maybe she really was doing compensated dating. Huh? Nanami's eyes were already brimming with tears without her realizing. She gasped softly, sniffled, and looked up. People surrounded her from all sides, their gazes pressing down on her like a weight. She began to panic, afraid, struggling to process what the class rep had just whispered. TCH. Compensated dating is compensated dating. If you're broke and go selling yourself, that's just pathetic. What a bitch. She let that disgusting fat pig climb on top. Wasn't she sick? You idiot, that's why she could charge high prices. Kanda, you saw her with that fat loser yourself, right? Suddenly, everyone turned their attention to Sorata, who had been silent the whole time. Dozens of eyes focused on him. Sorata was visibly startled, not answering. But his expression said enough. Of course it's compensated dating. Disgusting, you bitch, bleh. Ajayaru suddenly leaned in, nearly pressing her face against Nanami's, stuck out her tongue at her, and made a mocking face full of contempt. So gross, Kurosawa, is it that intense? Get farther away, I can already smell her stench. Disgusting. The Jayaru's move set the tone. The others, boys and girls alike, took turns making faces, sneering and showing contempt toward Nanami. They even burst into laughter. Surrounded by everyone, Nanami stood helpless, tears continuously welling up in her eyes. Outside the classroom, students from other classes passing by stopped out of curiosity to look inside. Come on, Aoyama, just say it. The class rep urged her. Say what? Like anyone would believe you now. Crying even after getting caught. You sure were smiling when you took the money. Gross. Suddenly, someone splashed a cup of water right at Nanami. They must have thought she was faking innocence, crying after being exposed for compensated dating, and wanted to vent their disgust. Seeing everyone bullying her, Nanami didn't dare fight back. Panicked, she threw the water. It was just plain cold water, not dangerous at all. But for Nanami in this moment, it was the final straw. The water splashed right onto her face. Smack. She froze, eyes wide open. Everyone else didn't react at first. Someone threw water. Her clothes soaked, drops clung to her face, and her hair visibly clung to her forehead. Ah! Nanami suddenly stood up and screamed like she'd gone mad, using every ounce of her strength. Her lungs tightened, and oxygen drained fast. Her heart pounded wildly. The people around her, even those outside the classroom who had gathered, felt their eardrums shake and instinctively stepped back in pain. Nanami's scream echoed all the way to the third-year building. Huff. Huff. After yelling, her face and pale neck flushed completely red, her neck even seemed thicker. While everyone still had their hands over their ears, Nanami used a moment to gather her remaining strength. Eyes bloodshot, teeth clenched, she swept her gaze around and shouted each word with fury. You're all making things up, assholes. I never did compensated dating. Never. And Kitakami-kun and I are just friends. I don't think he's gross. I think he's a decent person and good-looking too. Got it? Think whatever you want. Just stay away from me. She paused for a second, trembling, then turned around, grabbed her chair, and raised it high above her head. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she screamed again, using everything she had left, "Get the hell away from me." The once sweet and friendly pretty girl now looked utterly unhinged. Some nearby girls flinched and backed away in fear. Even boys who thought they were tough felt chills down their spines. Their tense expressions clearly showed they were scared too. After shouting, Nanami collapsed, flinging the chair down with a loud crash. Her eyes were soaked in tears, blurring her vision. She wiped her face, pushed through the crowd with both hands, and ran out of the classroom crying. The moment she stepped outside, she finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. In truth, when the class rep questioned her, Nanami could have chosen to lie. She could have said some bad things about Yoru, claiming he was bothering her, that she didn't know how to ask for help, and that's why she said they were friends. Even just denying they were friends would have been better than not saying anything. Nanami knew that too. But she would never deny it. First of all, it would be a lie. Second, she and Yoru really were friends. Now that she was being hurt, should she betray her friend? Hurt him too? Nanami would rather be insulted and labeled a compensated dating girl than do that. She was stubborn, inflexible, but pure and kind. Yoru had helped her so much before. She already felt a deep guilt and debt toward him. How could she betray him now, or even speak badly of him? If the person who considered her a friend, Yoru, found out, how hurt would he be? How would he see her? Absolutely impossible. She didn't even hesitate. Nanami ran out of the classroom, crying as she fled the building. No one knew where she went. Fortunately, as long as Yoru came back to school, everything could be resolved. Back in the classroom. After Nanami left, the others quickly scattered like birds. Of course, the contempt and gossip from their mouths didn't stop at all. Excuse me. What just happened in your class? A curious boy from another class walked in and casually asked someone nearby. Oh, it was Aoyama Nanami from our class. That girl who did compensated dating with that gross loser Kitakami who also stole Kazumi-Joka-senpai's stockings and panties. What? Compensated dating? Seriously? At the same time, people in the class went back to their seats, pulling out their phones to share the gossip with friends and club members. A girl who had heard most of the rumors excitedly ran back to her classroom to find her friends. Did you hear? In the class upstairs, a girl named Aoyama Nanami was caught doing compensated dating. What? For real? Yeah. And the guy she was with was that disgusting fat loser from our school. Kitakami. The rumor that Nanami did compensated dating with Yoru spread like a virus. Fast, uncontrollable, and hard to kill. Nearby, a boy leaned in curiously, asking in surprise, wait, who are you saying did compensated dating? Moments later, having heard the news, he rushed to his group of guy friends, bragging loudly with dramatic gestures. So vivid it sounded like he saw it with his own eyes. Meanwhile, Nanami kept running and ended up near the Shuchin Academy gym, exhausted and stopping to catch her breath. She bent over coughing, pain stabbing her lungs so much she couldn't stand straight. After a long moment, she lifted her head. Sunlight shone directly on her tear-streaked face, painfully bright. She turned her head robotically, as if numb, and looked around. It was quiet. No one was there. Shuchin was ridiculously large. I'm not a compensated dating girl. Sniffling hard, Nanami trembled as she moved toward the gym wall. It was only a few meters. But her mood was in freefall, so broken she could barely control her body. She nearly tripped. Finally, she leaned against the wall, legs trembling, and sat down, back pressed to the cold concrete. What happened today shattered Nanami's pride and triggered all the hardships and grievances she had buried deep since leaving home. Everything exploded. These were memories she'd forced herself to forget just to keep her sanity. Ding dong. Ding dong. The bell for class rang just then. Nanami, arms hugging her knees, lifted her pale, bloodless face. After a short pause, she grabbed the rough wall and pulled herself up. You can do it, Nanami. It's okay. Don't let what those people said get to you. It doesn't hurt you. You and Kitakami-kun are just friends. There was no compensated dating. But with such strong pride, and deep down, such self-doubt. How could she not care? Meanwhile, at Mai's house, Yoru woke up. After an hour of exercise in the bedroom and a shower, he made breakfast. Carrying a bowl of nutritious rice porridge, he walked into Mai's room. What's your temperature? Yoru set the bowl down on the bedside. 38.5 degrees. The fever's back. I'll need another 4. Mai's face was pale and lifeless. She looked completely drained. Eat up. After you finish, I'll take you to get the injection. You'll probably be fine by tomorrow. Yoru picked up the thermometer that still carried her scent, glanced at it, then set it aside. Mai sat up blankly. She didn't seem to hear him, nor did she move. What, do you want me to feed you? Yoru waited for a moment before finally speaking to her unmoving figure. Yoru casually said something, and to his surprise, Mai nodded in agreement. Clicking his tongue, Yoru picked up the bowl, scooped a spoonful of warm porridge, and brought it to Mai's lips. It felt like a dream. He went to the hospital and stumbled upon a beautiful celebrity upperclassman who needed care while running a fever. Cooking, feeding. Ah. Mai slightly opened her mouth, took in the spoon, and clumsily used her tongue to swallow the porridge. The salty flavor spread in her mouth, well balanced and fragrant. Tastes good. Mai lifted her eyelids and looked at Yoru. I wonder how things are going at school. Yoru mumbled absent-mindedly, not too concerned. So handsome. Mai swallowed the porridge and opened her mouth again, waiting to be fed. When Yoru moved a bit slower, she looked up. He even cook well. Snapping back, Yoru fed her another spoonful. After breakfast, Mai looked noticeably better and had regained a bit of strength. She lifted the blanket. I'll go with you to the hospital, but after that I have to go to school. Yoru looked at the nearly empty bowl and said, 2 days of 4 drips, you should be almost recovered. He glanced at Mai again. 2 days of 4 was a standard treatment. Once she finished the injections, she wouldn't be in any danger. With rest and medicine, she'd fully recover. He wasn't Mai's nurse, and Mai wasn't a pet that he had to be responsible for and take care of like a master. Unless. Mai froze at his words. Then, as expected, she sat up and tried to persuade him. Can't you stay 2 more days? Just to be safe. For a second there, she was so panicked that she couldn't even feel her heartbeat. Huh? Yoru hesitated, giving it some thought. Mai's expression turned anxious, and she gripped her hands tightly. All right. Get some rest, and then we'll go for your injection. Yoru thought about Mai's strange ability. It could be useful to him, so he agreed. Yay. The tension on Mai's face vanished, replaced by a soft smile. You were faking it? Yoru was taken aback. Not telling you, Humphrey. Mai huffed and flipped herself out of bed. She was an actress after all, wasn't pretending normal? Her pale, delicate feet touched the cold floor as she bent to put on slippers. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed Yoru was still standing beside her bed. She looked up and met his gaze, cheeks flushing, eyes widening in embarrassment. What are you staring at? My feet don't smell, all right? It's just your nose being sensitive. Get lost. Still feeling unsatisfied, Mai pressed her heel on top of Yoru's slipper and began grinding his toes. Senpai, I bet you've secretly smelled them yourself. Yoru forced a strained smile and looked down at her feet. Soft and white, slender and delicate, her toes curled slightly as her heel continued grinding against his foot. These were undeniably beautiful feet. Unlike say Tanya, Ariri, or even Gabriel, whose feet were small and cute with a bit of plumpness, Mai's were elegant and smooth. What are you looking at? Mai noticed Yoru's gaze glued to her feet. The heat of his stare almost felt tangible. Startled, she instinctively curled up her legs and dove back into bed. Yoru's thoughts trailed off and he awkwardly looked away. You're not thinking something perverted about my feet, are you? Huh? Mai sat up, realizing it, and cried out in disbelief and embarrassment. Before Yoru could respond, she stretched out her legs and kicked toward his stomach, trying to pinch the flesh under his shirt with her toes. Stop it already. Yoru flinched in surprise at her sudden attack. Oh? Mai seemed completely oblivious and instead doubled down. Seeing him trying to dodge, she stepped forward again. Her soft pink soles were immaculately cared for, smooth and delicate. Stop kicking me. Yoru, having taken a few hits, reached out and grabbed her foot, tickling the bottom of her sole. Ah. Ha ha ha. Ha. That tickles. Stop it. I'm sorry. Mai burst out laughing. Her feet were clearly very sensitive. More so than most. She was likely extremely ticklish. Still want to kick me? Geez. Yoru pouted. Rustle. Rustle. The bed covers shuffled as Mai pulled her feet back under the blanket. If I were a bit more wicked, you'd regret it, senpai. Yoru sighed and left the room, laughing helplessly. The room went quiet. A few minutes later, Mai peeked her head out, face flushed red, murmuring something under her breath. Probably cursing someone. By noon, Mai emerged from the room like nothing had happened and asked Yoru, who was eating fruit, ready? Let's go to the hospital. Let's go. Yoru turned off the TV. Mai wore short white ankle socks and sneakers, a cooling patch stuck to her forehead. After the 4, can we go for a walk? I want to see the ocean. Sure. Shuchin Academy. Lunchtime break. As soon as the bell rang, Nanami stood up and rushed out of the classroom. She could feel her classmates' eyes on her. Soon. Cafeteria. Did you hear? Someone at our school is doing compensated dating. No way. Who? A girl named Aoyama Nanami. She's super broke and resorted to it. Boys' bathroom. The guy she's doing it with is Kid Ikami? What are you guys talking about? Tell me too, Kuhai. Which class is she in? Wait, she's a top 15 student in the grade? No way, that's fake, right? She's from Osaka. Her family's poor. Got any proof? Let me see. The entire day. Until school ended. Nanami felt like she was suffocating. Every break, waves of curious onlookers passed by her classroom just to sneak a glance at her. The rumor spread like wildfire, and almost the entire second-year student body had heard it. It was even starting to leak into the third years. And it only got worse. The story had turned her into a materialistic girl being kept by Yoru for 300,000 yen a month. Back then, she had been seen standing on the street near Kabukicho. I did not. Nanami gripped her school bag and tried to comfort herself as she rushed away from Shuchin Academy. Once she left the school gate, she let out a big sigh of relief. She nervously looked back at the grand, majestic school gates, then quickened her pace. She didn't head straight home. Feeling anxious, down, and miserable, Nanami just wanted to throw herself onto her bed, hug Torajiru, and cry her eyes out. Shibuya Sky Observatory. Yoru seemed to be alone as he slowly took the elevator. But in reality, Mai, invisible to others, was closely following behind him. After getting an 4 drip at the hospital earlier that afternoon, Mai's condition had gradually improved. Her fever was now completely gone. After viewing the sea, they had come here. A patient's emotional state was important too, as it affected various internal functions of the body. Unable to refuse Mai, Yoru accompanied her for a stroll around Shibuya. In the afternoon, there weren't many people at the observatory. So pretty. Mai, unable to contain her excitement, ran a few steps ahead after stepping out of the elevator and spun around in place to show Yoru. It is quite pretty. Yoru wasn't talking about the view. Ha ha ha. Woo. This is amazing. With the gentle breeze brushing past her, Mai didn't even try to hide her excitement and jumped up again. They walked around all the way until evening. After shopping at the supermarket and buying lots of ingredients, Yoru and Mai headed home. What are you going to cook for me? Sprawled on the sofa, Mai folded her hands under her chin, her eyes sparkling as she looked at Yoru. You're a patient. You can only eat light food. As he said this, Yoru reached out and checked Mai's temperature. A slight fever. Interrupted by his sudden intimate gesture, Mai pressed her lips together and admired Yoru's breathtaking beauty. No matter how many times she looked at him, she was overwhelmed by how good-looking he was. Especially in those unguarded moments when Yoru casually did something affectionate or smiled slightly. Her heart rate would spike straight up. Go drink some water and put on a fever patch. Carrying the shopping bags, Yoru turned and headed toward the kitchen. Oh. Mai remained frozen in place for a while before muttering softly. Wearing short cotton socks, her feet stepped onto the cold floor as she walked back to her room. After drinking some water and obediently applying the fever patch, she sat on her bed, dazed. She was in a good mood, but now didn't quite know what to do with herself. Bored, she picked up her sock-covered feet and gently sniffed them, letting out a relieved sigh. Then, suddenly blushing, she remembered what happened that morning. How her foot had stepped and poked. Accidentally poked his sword? By the way, after I finish cooking, I need to head home for a bit. Yoru's smooth, gentle voice came from the doorway. Why do you need to go home? Mai stood up nervously. I just need to change clothes. Don't worry, it's close by. Yoru was busy cooking. No. I have a tracksuit here. Don't leave. Mai's heart tightened as she hurried out of the room. What about underwear? Yoru turned to look at her. What size do you wear? I'll just order some for you. Mai's fingers clutched tightly at the edge of the doorway. Yoru shrugged helplessly and gave her a number. Okay. Mai answered softly. A delicious aroma wafted from the kitchen. Yoru's cooking was light. He ladled a bowl of soup and set it in front of Mai. Here, corn, pork ribs, and water chestnut soup. So savory. Mai took a sip and savored the wonderful taste. I'm going to shower. Yoru, holding an ear of corn and taking a bite, glanced out the broad floor-to-ceiling windows as night fell. After seeing Yoru enter the shower, Mai finally spat out the soup bone and softly grumbled to herself, why do you need to tell me when you're going to shower? Nanami worked at a hamburger shop. Because of her job, there were always a lot of leftover discarded food items every evening, and the shop owner allowed employees to take some home. That way, she could save on dinner and the next day's breakfast. Today had been especially busy. Wearing her work apron and face mask, Nanami was standing in front of the fryer as the fries turned crisp and golden. But she was spacing out. Her mind wandered back to what had happened earlier at school. The fries were on the verge of burning. It wasn't until an older woman next to her gave her shoulder a firm pat that she snapped back. Watch the fryer. Huh? Oh, right. Nanami shouted in panic and hurried to scoop out the fries. But in her rush, a droplet of hot oil splashed up from the fryer basket and landed right on her arm. Ah! She shut her eyes in pain and gave a quiet gasp as that patch of skin stung fiercely. It hurt. A lot. But she gritted her teeth and forced herself to endure it, saving the fries from burning. Good thing the whole batch didn't go to waste. Otherwise, I'd have to fry them all over again. Just barely made it. Relieved, Nanami finally took the time to examine her arm. 8:30 p.m. After her shift ended, Nanami walked home while eating 2 discarded hamburgers and some fried chicken wings. Just to save time. A bit after 9:00 p.m. Nanami arrived home, inserted her key into the apartment door, locked up behind her, and took off her small leather shoes, placing them neatly by the door. Without pausing, she headed to the kitchen. She placed the remaining hamburger in the fridge for tomorrow's breakfast. Nanami turned on the bathroom heater and rested for a bit before going to shower. Click. She pressed the switch. The light didn't turn on. Broken. Seriously? Frustrated, Nanami grumbled and had to use her phone flashlight to finish her shower quickly. The whole thing took just 5 minutes. Back in her room, she turned on the desk lamp, completed her homework, reviewed her notes, and pre-studied. That's how she kept up her grades. 10:30 p.m. Nanami turned off the desk lamp, pulled out her second-hand laptop, connected her voice recorder, and took out her dubbing script. She drank a few sips of water to moisten her throat and diligently practiced voice acting. 11:00 p.m. With her voice now hoarse, Nanami stopped, packed up the laptop and equipment, brushed her teeth, washed her face, turned off the lights, and slipped into bed. She hugged Torajiru tightly and closed her eyes. In the pitch-black room, only her soft breathing could be heard. Suddenly, her brow furrowed, and she opened her eyes. Unable to hold back her emotions any longer, she curled up under the blanket and cried. She couldn't fall asleep. Every time she closed her eyes, the events at school would resurface in her mind. She wasn't that kind of girl. She wasn't. She cried herself to sleep sometime around midnight, simply from exhaustion. At dawn, when the sky had just begun to lighten, Nanami's internal clock kicked in. She opened her eyes and got up to fold her bedding. She washed her face, brushed her teeth, heated up the leftover burger, filled her water bottle. After finishing a simple breakfast on the way, Yaru arrived at the bookstore in the Shuchin commercial district and began work. Today's task was reorganizing the shelves in the light novel section. Some customers would read randomly and stuff the books back wherever they wanted. At 8:15, Nanami got off work, grabbed her school bag, and hurried to school. On the first floor, by the shoe lockers, she opened her locker and a folded note silently fluttered down. Bastard. That was probably the most venomous insult this innocent girl could muster. Again. Another note asking for her pay. In the morning homeroom, Nanami entered the classroom with nowhere to vent her anger and frustration. The moment she stepped into the room, she could feel all her classmates' eyes turn to her. Just like yesterday. Taking a deep breath, Nanami put on a strong front and walked back to her seat. Slut. Skank. Cheap. Whore. Little bitch. Different colored marker strokes, messy handwriting, and filthy drawings were scrawled all over Nanami's desk. The ink hadn't even dried yet. Clearly, someone had started it, and the others couldn't resist following suit until the entire desk was defiled. Her chest heaved as she stared at it for a long time before sitting down. She placed her bag down and, in a fit of frustration, grabbed tissues and began scrubbing hard. Her face was eerily calm. The classroom buzzed with murmurs, filtering into her ears. A few minutes later, unable to clean much off, she laid a book over the desk and slumped forward. Sleep deprived, she yawned. She usually napped during homeroom or lunch breaks. Did you go out selling yourself again last night? Didn't get enough sleep? Right? Out there hooking again? So disgusting. Looks decent but sleeps around for cash. Her client's even a fat pig. Nanami covered her ears and pretended not to hear. But that's all she could do. Pretend. She could fool others, but not herself. In the teacher's office, Hiratsuka Shizuka faced a nervous boy standing rigidly in front of her, waiting anxiously for a response. That's enough. You can go now. And don't bring this up again. She pulled out a cigarette and waved him away. After he left, she took a long dragon sigh. What the hell is going on? Kitakami again? Why is it always something with him? And now he's on leave? Hiratsuka exhaled smoke. Just moments ago, she'd heard from that student. The one who just left? Mentioning both compensated dating and Yoru in the same breath. So she called him to the teacher's building for questioning. A rumor was circulating among students. A girl named Aoyama Nanami was said to be doing compensated dating, and her client was supposedly Yoru, from her own class. He didn't came to school. Does he even know about this? Hiratsuka dialed Yoru's number. In a taxi, Yoru stared out the window as he answered, puzzled. Ma immediately perked up to eavesdrop. Hello, Kitakami, it's me. Hiratsuka-sensei? Is something wrong? Yoru hadn't turned on speakerphone, leaving Ma itching with curiosity. How long until you get to school? There's a rumor spreading involving you. With a cigarette between her lips, Hiratsuka imagined the image of some greasy, obese creep. What? Yoru was confused. Could it be Eri? Do you know a girl named Aoyama Nanami? Hiratsuka asked. Yes. He replied. Well, the rumor is she's doing compensated dating. And the person involved is supposedly you. They're even saying you spend 1 million yen a month to keep her. What? That's insane. No way. Why is this happening? Who's spreading this? Yoru shouted into the phone. Mai inched even closer. At this rate, she'd be pressed up against him. Even the taxi driver glanced through the rearview mirror. Prepared for the outburst, Hiratsuka had already moved the phone away, but the volume still stung. I don't know the full story yet. Just found out myself. Hiratsuka replied calmly. Alright then, goodbye. Yoru politely hung up and glanced at Mai, ignoring her, then immediately messaged Nanami. During class, barely hanging on, Nanami's phone buzzed inside her bag. It wasn't loud, but she heard it. Kitakami-kun? Seeing who messaged her made her feel a little safer. She was desperate for Yoru to hurry to school and be by her side. She really needed comfort and help right now. Rumors at school? What's going on? Are you okay? She glanced at the teacher on the podium, pursed her lips, and thought to herself. I really want him to come right now. But this isn't his fault. I'm the one dragging him into this. How did he even find out? He must be busy. I can't let him worry about me. Nanami exhaled lightly and typed her reply. It's all right. They're just rumors. Nothing serious. Don't worry about me, focus on your stuff. Her fingers trembled slightly as she hit send, staring down at the vulgar words and drawings on her desk. She no longer wished for Yoru to rush over. Because she didn't want to distract him or cause trouble. Since he was on leave, she naturally assumed it was for something important. She even felt guilty that she dragged him into this mess, once again becoming the target of everyone's insults and ridicule. Are you really okay? Yoru wasn't convinced. He was very sensitive to rumors and had a hard time believing her. Nanami replied again with firm typing, brushing it off like it was just a cold. But in reality, almost the entire grade already knew. There were probably people gossiping in secret about her doing compensated dating. The situation was very serious. She was already experiencing cold bullying. Yoru finally relaxed a bit and sent her words of comfort. Deep inside, he began to feel anger boiling toward Ariri. After class, Nanami held her phone, completely absorbed in replying to Yoru. She didn't notice a Jaiaru girl sneaking up behind her, peeking at what she was doing. Suddenly, the Jaiaru snatched Nanami's phone and held it high for the whole class to see. Plenty of people had already been keeping an eye on her. Look, everyone. Evidence. This compensated dating chick is texting that disgusting fatty. With a smug grin, the Jaiaru shouted and displayed the phone screen to the nearest students. What are you doing? Nanami leapt to her feet and angrily lunged to grab her phone back. The Jaiaru, already expecting this, tossed the phone into the air. It ended up in someone else's hands. Wait, it's real? Chat logs? No way. I kind of didn't believe it, but this really proves it. Let me see, let me see. Countless people crowded around, checking it in shock. Someone even pulled out their phone to take pictures, planning to upload them to the school forum to get attention. Don't look. Give it back. Give it back to me. Nanami lost it and rushed over, trying to snatch back her phone. The person got startled, quickly tossed the phone onto the table, and backed away. But it was too late. The conversation had already been captured. Even though it was just a few short lines. It still proved that Kitakami and Nanami were in contact, didn't it? Kitakami cared about Nanami, didn't he? I'm not an escort. I never did any Injokosai. Just like yesterday, Nanami grabbed her phone, stumbling and crying as she ran out of the classroom. But it was no use. The others were still excited about discovering this so-called evidence. Nanami really was doing compensated dating? What a shame. She was such a cute girl. What's wrong? After putting his phone away, Yoru heard Mai ask curiously. He shook his head and gave her a look. Yoru figured he knew Nanami well enough. A friend wouldn't lie to him. Even after asking her 5 or 6 times, her replies started sounding impatient. She even turned it around, asking if he didn't trust his own friend. What else could Yoru do? He went to the hospital. Stole the medicine, gave the injection, all in one go. The dosage of the drug was definitely reduced. An hour and a half later, Mai looked refreshed as she and Yoru went home. Of course, it was only temporary. She needed at least 2 weeks of proper rest before she'd be fully recovered. Mai's house had a luxurious entertainment room. The two of them were watching a movie out of boredom. Well, more like Mai was dragging Yoru into watching it. So, what was it you wanted to ask me to do? Once the movie passed its climax, Mai turned to Yoru. You're a student at Shuchin, right? You should know Shinomiya Kaguya. Yoru looked at the large movie screen. I don't go to school much, but I still know her. Mai nodded curiously. The heiress of one of Japan's 4 great financial groups. With such a prestigious background, she was someone everyone envied. She was also very capable, and undeniably cute. I want you to help me investigate her and the Shinomiya conglomerate in detail. Yoru tossed away an apple core and responded casually. Hearing that, Mai was momentarily stunned. She didn't reply. She just quietly stared at Yoru's flawless side profile. Could it be that he liked Shinomiya Kaguya and wanted to become someone by climbing the ladder through her? So now he wanted her to investigate the girl? Mai turned away, feeling a little bitter. Afternoon. Shuchin Student Council. Shirigane, Kaguya, Ino, Chika, and the background character Ishigami were all gathered. So, what does everyone think about this? Shirigane slowly spoke, showing the supposed escorting evidence on his phone. It's fake. Obviously. Chika said decisively. She didn't know Nanami personally, but she was very familiar with Yoru. We still need to investigate. But knowing Kitakami, I wouldn't put compensated dating past him either. Kaguya didn't trust Yoru, but she had more faith in Aoyama Nanami. After speaking, a hint of disgust flashed through her eyes. Whether this is a rumor or not, we need to look into it. I'll investigate. Disciplinary committee member Ino Maiko said. No, Kitakami-kun would never do something like that. It's definitely a misunderstanding. Chika waved her hands repeatedly at the others. Secretary Fujiwara, you sound pretty sure. Do you know something? Shirogane voiced the question on everyone's mind. Yeah, we should just clear the rumors right away. Fujiwara nodded firmly. Can you elaborate? And from how you sound, are you pretty close with Kitakami? Kaguya looked at her friend in confusion. Kaguya-chan. Chika called out affectionately, but didn't know how to continue. Could she really say that Yoru was too handsome? That she had been seeing him 3 times a week since a month before school started? That he would even feed her delicious homemade breakfasts by hand? Her face froze awkwardly, and at the same time she recalled how Yoru seemed to have strong opinions about Kaguya. And Kaguya felt the same about him. So what is it? What's going on? Shirogane asked again. And no, nothing. Just leave this to me. Chika shook her head and patted her chest confidently. Kaguya found her friend acting odd and reminded her that Kitakami hasn't even shown up at school since the term started. Really? Got it. Chika looked surprised, then added, I'll handle this matter now. See you. She waved and left the student council room to track down Nanami for answers. But she came up empty-handed. With no choice, she returned sheepishly and joined Ino in debunking the rumors. She planned to try again tomorrow. After spending the afternoon watching movies with Mai, the mildly feverish patient lay down to rest again. You'll leave tomorrow morning after staying tonight? Mai was afraid of returning to being alone. After showering, Yoru did some exercises in the room, skimmed some news, then went to sleep. The next morning, Mai slept in and didn't get up until after 9. After breakfast, Yoru administered her 4 drip at home. They had brought the medicine back the day before, so there was no need for another trip. I'll be heading out this afternoon. Take care of yourself and rest properly. Yoru reminded her. For lunch. I want sushi. Mai nodded. What are you planning to do from here? Yoru asked her. He wasn't clueless. He knew how important he was to Mai. I'll rest up, go see my mom and sister. And my dad too. Give me a little more time, then I'll help you again. Mai had came to terms with it. Even if she couldn't interact with her family, at least she could quietly watch over them. It'll be fine. Yoru looked at her gently and said softly. Yeah. Mai shrank her neck slightly and bit her lip gently, a little shy. Yoru had lost almost all his excess fat. Only a bit of body fat remained. His looks and charm were nearly at their peak. If he lost just a little more. He left the room. Yoru had groceries delivered from the supermarket. He cooked a rich and delicious lunch. After they finished eating, he rested on the sofa in the living room. Suddenly, a message came in from Chika. Something happened to Aoyama Nanami. It's really serious. Go check the school forum now, I'll organize the details and send them to you in a bit. Chika stayed by Nanami's side and learned full situation. It was bad. Very bad. The attempt to clear things up had completely failed. Despite Nanami's attempt to stop her, Chika still stubbornly sent a message to Yoru. Fujiwara-san, didn't I say I don't want to bother Kitakami-kun? He might be coming to school tomorrow. Nanami was visibly upset and spoke with concern. She was afraid she caused trouble for Yoru. She didn't want to distract him. They dumped water on you, threw paper notes, graffitied things. How is that not serious? Chika gasped. It's not that bad. It didn't hurt or anything. Nanami lightly shook her head, trying to act tough. Still, one day is one day. This can't go on. Chika shook her head again and just then received Yoru's reply. Once Yoru showed up, Both girls knew what kind of person he was now. So good-looking it was almost unreal. Would someone like him need to pay for companionship? The people spreading rumors were clearly disgusted that Nanami was with a gross fat otaku and assumed she was some kind of escort. At Sakurajimai's house. After finding out everything and replying to the message, Yuri checked the forum. And nearly exploded with rage. He rushed to say goodbye to Mai and headed toward Shuchen Academy. Chiku had told him to come but hadn't explained why. Yoru had no idea that just being as attractive as he was now could be enough to crush the rumors. In his mind, he was just a little good-looking. As Mai had said. Being friends with a gross otaku? That's escort behavior. Being friends with a guy this unbelievably handsome, the kind that makes girls' hearts skip a beat just by smiling? Not a chance that's escorting. Yoru hurried down the street. Mai didn't know what had happened but wisely didn't try to stop him. She followed behind. What's going on? In the elevator, Mai gently supported his hand, trying to comfort him. Someone at school's spreading rumors about me. It's driving me crazy. Yoru took a deep breath and slowly calmed himself down. But why? Mai looked confused. Because I used to be a disgusting fat otaku, that's why. Yoru clenched his fists. As soon as the elevator doors opened, he strode out. Mai followed, recalling that it was only this past summer that Yoru had shed all his weight. The students at school had no idea what he looked like now. You walk into school like this. You're going to shock a lot of people. Mai couldn't help thinking that to herself. Even she found it hard to look directly at him. When Yoru smiled at her, she couldn't help blushing. So how would those spoiled rich girls at Shuchen react? She followed closely behind Yoru, already anticipating what kind of chaos would unfold. Yoru arrived at the station in a rush, anxiously waiting for the train. Time was tight. Mai caught up shortly after. You're sick. Go home and rest. You're seriously going to school like this? Yoru had completely forgotten that no one else could see Mai. Luckily, there weren't many people at the station. I just wanted to follow you home and see where you live. Even though Yoru was clearly anxious, Mai was still touched that he worried about her. I'm going to beat the crap out of whoever started this rumor. Yoru's fists clenched and relaxed again. But really, no one even knew who exactly started the rumors. Even Nanami had no idea who first said she was selling herself. A little while later, Yoru held Mai's hand and they sat together in the corner of the train car. He checked the time. When he finally got home, he sprinted back in, changed into his Shuchen uniform, and got ready. So this is where you live. Mai sat on a small sofa. Take care of yourself. If anything happens, call me. Yoru grabbed his bag and, after quickly reminding her, ran out the door toward school. That afternoon, the first class was already underway by the time Yoru arrived at Shuchen and headed for the academic building. The first period. Wasn't that Hiratsuka-sensei's class? Wait, is class already in session? If I walk in and say reporting in, the whole class is going to look at me, right? Yoru slowed his steps a little. Whatever. Who cares how they react? He shook his head and dashed up to the classroom. Chapter 86, Alright everyone, copy down this question. Hiratsuka stretched and yawned. Her students, clearly terrified of her domineering presence, immediately put their heads down and started copying. BZZ BZZ. Her phone vibrated twice on the podium. She picked it up and shook her head slightly. Another matchmaking text. Sigh. With a sigh, she walked over to the window to take the call. Before the other side could say anything, she politely rejected it. Lately, the men she'd been set up with were just sad. Either balding old guys or young salarymen with no ambition whatsoever. After hanging up, she sighed again. Please, Kami-sama, send me a young, handsome husband. Preferably younger than me. Knock knock knock. Someone knocked on the door. Hiratsuka turned and saw a tall, good-looking young man in a Shuchen uniform standing at the door. She froze. Was she hallucinating? Did she just summon a guy straight out of her wish? The entire class stopped writing. Dozens of eyes all turned toward the door in unison. First shock, then confusion. Everyone was wondering. Who the hell was this ridiculously handsome guy? A transfer student? Is he a new transfer? He's really good looking. Maybe. Did he came to the wrong class? Do you know him? Has anyone seen him before? Is he from our school? Whispers started to ripple through the room. Even Yui was stunned. She hadn't seen him in a while, but somehow, Yoru had gotten even better looking. Yoru stood at the door for a moment, but when Hiratsuka still didn't respond, he just walked in. He wasn't surprised by everyone's reactions. He'd lost weight so fast over the summer, the change was bound to shock people. He walked at a steady pace from the door, past the podium, heading straight for his seat. Every pair of eyes followed him. He was the center of attention. Why is he walking this way? Yumiko accidentally locked eyes with Yoru. First she was stunned by his face, then she blushed a little for no reason. Yoru didn't respond to anyone. He just went to his seat and hung up his bag. What is he doing? Isn't that the seat of that disgusting fat guy? Maybe he just sat there by mistake. God, he's really good looking. But wait, even Hiratsuka-sensei looks confused. She doesn't know who he is either. As Yoru took his seat, everyone started remembering the face of the guy who used to sit there. That gross fat otaku. You. Yumiko shot to her feet, dramatically pointing at Yoru and screaming as if she'd seen a ghost. You're Kitakami Yoru? She recognized him from the way he placed his bag down and the way he sat. A person can lose weight, but it's not easy to change their habits. Kitakami Yoru? Is it really him? No way, right? Impossible. How did he end up looking like this? Did he get plastic surgery? No. It's weight loss. He slimmed down so fast. It can't be. You mean that disgusting fat otaku? Suddenly, the whole class erupted into chaos. Everyone was whispering and talking at once, completely disregarding order. The most shocked and baffled were the girls in class. Normally, they were the ones who looked down on Yoru the most. To them, he was disgusting, ugly, the ultimate shut-in nerd. No one took him seriously. But just now, when Yoru appeared at the doorway, every single one of them felt their hearts flutter. He looked amazing. At the podium, Hiratsuka's fingers trembled as she took out a cigarette and held it between her lips. It's me, Hiratsuka-sensei. I'm Kitakami Yoru. After sitting down, Yoru smiled faintly and spoke to Hiratsuka. His voice was soft and magnetic, incredibly pleasant to the ears. Some of the more romantically inclined girls felt like he was speaking directly to them. Flustered and excited, they clenched their tiny fists. The class fell into complete silence. Yoru naturally assumed it was because he'd lost weight so quickly and startled everyone. He didn't realize the real reason was because he had become astonishingly good-looking. You. How did you end up looking like this? Yumiko was the first to recover, breaking the silence. I've been dieting this whole time. I just lost weight. Yoru glanced at the clock. There were still 10 minutes left of class and he responded calmly. Like a stone thrown into a pond, his words stirred up another wave of chatter. The once silent classroom erupted again, loud enough to puzzle the neighboring classes. What on earth is going on in that class? Quiet. Calm down, stop shouting. Hiratsuka put away her cigarette. She hadn't even lit it. And shouted loudly. Everyone stiffened. Their gazes reluctantly turned away from Yoru, curiosity still brimming. Alright, get back to class. If you're curious, wait until the break. Hiratsuka's usual authority wasn't a joke. Only Yoru ever saw her softer side. Soon, order returned to the classroom. Still. With quick glances that Hiratsuka couldn't catch, many bold girls kept turning to look at him again and again. Sigh. Yoru felt a bit uncomfortable. He sighed quietly, resting half his face on his right hand as he turned to look out the window. In that moment, his entire aura shifted into something deeply melancholic. Combined with his stunning looks, many girls found themselves completely captivated. Tobe's face looked awful. He noticed his crush, Ebinahina, staring at Yoru with eyes that looked like she wanted to devour him. Hayato widened his eyes in disbelief when he saw Yumiko, who liked him, staring intensely at Yoru as well. Click. One girl boldly took out her phone and snapped a photo of Yoru. Phones in Japan can't fully mute or disable the flash. The light hit Yoru's face directly and flashed once. Yoru frowned slightly. He was thinking about Nanami and was eagerly waiting for class to end, so he didn't react much. Seeing that Yoru didn't respond, some of the girls, including ones who already had boyfriends, took out their phones and started snapping photos too. They wanted to permanently capture this image of Yoru, the melancholic, handsome guy by the window. Click click. Click click. The flashes made Yoru blink repeatedly and he eventually closed his eyes in discomfort. Do you all think I'm deaf? Hiratsuka suddenly turned around, snapping a piece of chalk in her hand as a warning. She swept her eyes across everyone with forceful, oppressive energy. Finally, Yoru got a moment to breathe. This is just. 2. Yumiko was about to complain about how love-struck some girls were. Then, Yoru turned to her and smiled. Her murmuring instantly stopped. She froze in a mix of shock and embarrassment. Miura-san, I want to ask you something. That rumor about Aoyama Nanami selling herself. Who started it? Yoru glanced at the clock again. Class was nearly over. His anger was building up. I don't know. It came from her class. Yumiko took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. You don't know exactly? Yoru wanted to give the source of that rumor a brutal payback. Yumiko was inwardly panicking. Her mind was spinning. Over one summer break, that disgusting, fat shut-in had completely transformed. Now he stood there with a flawless face. His social standing at school was about to undergo a complete revolution. She had always liked Hayato, but so did many other girls. She couldn't even count them on one hand. Even with her bias and filters toward Hayato, there was no way she could compare him to Yoru. They weren't even on the same level. And Yoru? Damn it, did he smile at her on purpose? That just made him more attractive. Just a few minutes later, the bell rang. Hiratsuka glanced at Yoru. She hadn't dismissed class yet. She planned to speak with him. But Yoru couldn't wait anymore. He immediately stood up and dashed out of the classroom. Right after class ended, Nanami waited until the teacher left. She pulled out a small blade and began scraping off the insults carved into her desk. Trash is trash. Even if you clean it off, it's still the same. She really went out to sell herself? Disgusting. Hope she doesn't catch something and spread it to us. Gross. Her classmates were already scattered, chatting about the latest hot topic. Nanami. The school prostitute. I didn't sell myself. I'm not. Nanami lowered her head even more, gritting her teeth and scraping harder with the blade. The shavings blew away in the wind. Ha. Yoru rushed up 2 flights of stairs and arrived at the front door of Nanami's classroom. Aoyama? Bang. He called out loudly and knocked hard to get everyone's attention. His sudden appearance and voice startled many. Everyone in the class turned their heads and froze at the sight. Kitakami-kun. A familiar voice rang in Nanami's ears. At first, she thought she was imagining it. After a few seconds, when she saw the face she missed so dearly, she burst into tears and stood up. Aoyama-san, it's okay. I'm here. Yoru scanned the classroom. Sob. Ha. Kitakami-kun. Kitakami-kun. Sob. Nanami broke down crying, unable to hold back the despair and pain any longer. It's okay now. It's okay. Yoru jogged up to Nanami. As he passed by a rather cute girl, her eyes went wide. So good looking. Too handsome. It's okay now. Yoru stood beside Nanami and stopped caring about the stares. Gently extending his hand, Yoru softly pulled Nanami into his broad chest. One hand stroked her back, the other held her head, gently soothing her. A light fragrance of shampoo drifted into Yoru's nose. You. What? I'm not. Huh. I'm not an escort girl. Nanami cried even harder, clutching Yoru's clothes tightly as if she wanted to melt into his body, to become one with him. I'm here now, aren't I? Yoru smiled gently, comforting the helpless girl sobbing in his arms. Then his expression turned cold. He thought of the bullying Nanami had suffered. And the insults written on the desk. It was too much. But this wasn't the place to talk. It's all right. I'm here. Yoru could feel how much pain Nanami was holding in and kept whispering to calm her down. From the darkness in her heart came a warm light, pushing the shadows away. In a corner of the classroom, everyone saw Yoru hugging Nanami. Who was he? Kitakami? No way, wasn't he that gross fat otaku? Why does he look so handsome now? Where's Kanda-kun? He hasn't been here since yesterday. Is this guy Aoyama's boyfriend? I thought she was doing compensated dating. What's going on? Maybe it's someone with the same name. How could it be that much of a coincidence? Kitakami-kun. After crying for several minutes, Nanami pulled back slightly, her tear-stained face gazing up at Yoru. Her pillar of support, her source of comfort, had came to save her. Let's go talk somewhere else. Don't worry, I'm here now. Yoru took a deep breath, grabbed her wrist, and led her firmly toward the door. First he needed to calm her down, then he'd come back and deal with the ones who hurt her. Nanami had no strength left. Her mind was a fog, letting Yoru lead her out. Hey. You. A curious boy spoke up behind them. I'm Yoru. The disgusting fat loser you all called a thief. Satisfied now? Yoru stopped and turned to glare coldly at the boy. His voice wasn't loud, but it exploded like thunder. The words echoed in the classroom as Yoru led Nanami away. Silence followed. Everyone looked at one another, eyes filled with disbelief and confusion. The guy who just walked out with Nanami was the same disgusting fat guy they all remembered? That kind of shock was like the sun rising from the west. What? How? That's really him? Don't look at me, I didn't start the escort rumor. I just heard it from someone else. He used to be gross, now he's hot. They must really be dating. I didn't write on her desk. It wasn't me. I had nothing to do with it, seriously. Liar. You were the loudest when everyone was jeering. Suddenly, the quiet classroom turned chaotic. Most of the students who had mocked Nanami tried to distance themselves from what happened, convincing themselves it wasn't their fault. It was simple. A beautiful girl dating a handsome guy? That's normal. But if she dated a fat otaku? Must be for money. Yoru led Nanami to a small pond in the Shuchin courtyard. Last time, Yumeko had tripped nearby, and he saw her panties. Nanami's steps were wobbly. She wiped her tears with one hand and tried to tidy her messy hair. They reached the quiet, secluded pavilion by the pond. Yoru gently released her wrist and helped her sit down. Kitakami-kun. Cough. Why are you here? Nanami spoke too quickly, choking a little. You look like this and expect me not to come? Seriously. Yoru patted her back gently, sounding a bit annoyed at how stubborn she was. Even like this, she had tried to hide it from him. She was way too proud. Sorry. Nanami stopped crying and looked up with swollen eyes. More tears spilled out again. It's alright, I'm not mad. I'm just worried about you. Yoru knew that right now, the most important thing was to keep her calm. If you want to cry, cry. He gently patted her back with one hand and pulled out a tissue with the other. I already cried enough. My eyes are swollen. I don't want to cry anymore. Nanami managed a small smile, showing her white teeth as she took the tissue and wiped her face and eyes. Finally, she turned away, embarrassed, and blew her nose. Yoru quietly watched her and reached out to fix her hair. Just then, the school bell rang. You're not going back. Yoru said firmly. Hee. Okay. Nanami turned toward him and gave a small laugh. She felt safe. Warm. Having Yoru by her side brought her peace. Yoru let out a long sigh. Just rest for a while. For the first time, Nanami felt a rebellious urge to skip class. She nodded without hesitation. Yoru gazed into the distance, collecting his thoughts. Nanami peeked at him, then lowered her head to calm herself. Joy. Relief. Surprise. For the next 10 or so minutes, they sat together in silence. Then Yoru looked at her and asked, feeling any better? I'm okay now. Nanami replied softly. Then tell me. Who started the rumors? A cold glint flickered in Yoru's eyes. I don't know. Nanami hesitated. Instead of being scared, she felt even warmer. You don't know? You're lying to me again? Yoru frowned. He thought this kind, innocent girl was trying to cover it up. Really? I swear. Nanami nodded quickly, meeting his gaze in panic. I told everyone we were friends. That was all. Someone saw us together, and somehow it turned into me doing that. Her voice trailed off into a whisper. Nanami, who never used harsh words, could barely say compensated dating aloud in front of Yoru. I'm so pissed. Yoru's chest rose and fell heavily. It's fine now, everything's okay. Nanami hesitated, then gently tugged on Yoru's arm, hugging it. If we don't find the one spreading rumors, how do we stop them? They even posted our chat log on the school forum. Yoru exhaled deeply, trying to stay calm. The rumors say you were with a gross loser. You mean me? You're not a loser anymore. Nanami shyly tried to rest her head on Yoru's shoulder. The way Yoru looked now, he could walk up to any girl on the street and take her home that night. Why would he need to pay anyone? Like Chieko had said, once Yoru showed up at school, the rumors would fall apart on their own. You know. You kind of have a point. Yoru's furrowed brows began to relax. It really did sound reasonable. Nanami's hard-won courage vanished again. She hurriedly let go of Yoru's arm. Then tell me. Who bullied you the most? Yoru stood up, clenching his fist as he looked toward the school building. At the same time, his mind drifted to that little blonde twin-tail Airi. Were her pigtails itching or something? It had already been over 2 months, and she still hadn't gone to clear things up with Kasumijoka Utaha. What happened to Nanami? Airi definitely shared some of the blame. Kitakami-kun? Nanami stammered as she called out to him. Aren't you angry about what they did? Don't you want to get back at them? Yoru sat back down, eyes wide, filled with frustration. Ugh. Nanami nodded hard, then shook her head just as firmly. Her heart was in turmoil. She didn't know what to do. Did she hate those people? She hated them very much. Did she resent them? Deeply. But she was just a poor, powerless girl from the countryside. And those students at Shuchin? Almost every single one of them was. You're worried? Don't worry, I won't act rashly. Yoru activated his mind reading. Given the situation, he couldn't be blamed. Please don't do anything reckless. You don't have to get revenge for me. I don't want you to get in trouble. Nanami's hands tightened together, then separated again. I'm really mad. Mad that they called me a disgusting fat loser. I'm standing up for myself. Is that okay? Listen up, I'm standing up for myself. Is that okay? Yoru grabbed Nanami's shoulders and gave her a firm shake. She quickly looked up, on the verge of tears again. She knew. Yoru's excuse was as weak as a question asking what 1 + 1 equals. Tell me. Who poured water on you? Who stole your phone? Yoru let go of her shoulders. It was. Nanami told him the names. Good. Rest for a bit. Yoru pulled out his phone to check the time, then turned and asked, also, did you lie to me earlier? You said you were fine? Told me not to worry. Nanami looked a little afraid, but not truly frightened. In a soft voice, she said, because you were already dealing with stuff. I didn't want to trouble you. And I knew you'd come back to school eventually. It didn't matter if it was a little late. What do you mean it didn't matter? Yoru knew she was trying to look out for him, but he still got angry and gently tugged on her delicate ear. Her ears. They were Nanami's weakness. Off limits. As sensitive as any private area. The sudden move made her whole body tremble. She quickly covered her mouth, nearly letting out a yelp. Did that hurt? Yoru tugged again lightly, worried he might have pulled too hard. A little. Her face turned red instantly, voice barely above a whisper. And a lie. I'll get revenge for you later. Yoru looked at her with slight guilt in his eyes. He still had so much he wanted to say to her. But that could wait until they got home. Okay. This time, Nanami didn't refuse. Her heart ached with confusion as she responded. Kitakami-kun. I'm here. Sorry. I dragged you into all this. You even got scolded because of me. Her eyes were full of apology. This wasn't your fault. You don't need to blame yourself. And don't do this again. If something happens, tell me. Yoru shook his head gently. Nanami was too proud. Too independent. Always thinking only of him. Afraid she'd cause him trouble. I'll try. Cough. With her personality, this was all she could say. After sitting for a little while longer, Yoru pulled her to her feet. One in front, one behind, they left the area. Nanami followed slowly behind, her heart gradually filling with embarrassment. At a vending machine, Yoru inserted several coins, buying 7 different drinks. He opened one and handed it to Nanami, stuffing the rest in his pockets. She sipped slowly, hydrating herself while curiously wondering what Yoru was planning. A few minutes later, Yoru pulled her back toward the school building. He timed it just right and arrived at the back door of the classroom. Just as the bell rang. Under normal circumstances, Nanami would have panicked. She had skipped class. But teachers in Japan didn't drag classes over time. 10 seconds after the bell rang, the teacher had already left. Inside the classroom, everyone had noticed Yoru holding Nanami's wrist at the back door. As the teacher left, Yoru led the flustered Nanami into the classroom. At that moment, she felt like a helpless little girl. Countless scorching gazes pierced through her, like bullets all at once. Yoru walked straight to the boy who had poured water on her. What's he gonna do? Revenge, obviously. If someone splashed water on your girlfriend, could you take it? He's so cool. Why does he look so good now that he's slimmed down? Aoyama really hit the jackpot. Come on. Didn't you used to say awful stuff about her? Called her an escort, didn't you? I want to date a hottie too. Don't drag me into this. I didn't say anything. An hour ago, you were calling him that disgusting fat loser. I don't buy your innocence. After a whole class period, everyone had no choice but to accept that Yoru had lost weight and become a perfect heartthrob. Nanami heard all the chatter and bowed her head even lower. What? What do you want? The boy who poured water on her looked like a jock. Some muscle on him. He panicked when Yoru stared at him but then stood up to save face. He'd splashed Nanami just out of twisted, impulsive cruelty. Some people just couldn't stand to see others doing well. Wham! Yoru suddenly threw a heavy punch straight into the guy's chest. Ugh! Crash! Clang clang clang. The boy let out a muffled groan, completely unprepared for the sudden strike. He crashed to the floor, slamming into desks and chairs, sending everything tumbling with a loud clatter. Sorry. Yoru glanced at a nearby girl whose desk had been knocked over and offered a calm apology. The girl blushed immediately, her eyes wide with shock, frozen on Yoru, unable even to nod. Everyone else, including Nanami, was stunned. Yoru had just hit someone? This was Shuchin Academy. A school with extremely strict rules and high standards for its students. Bullying and mockery were things people only dared do behind closed doors. Even then, only cold, silent bullying. No one dared cross the line into violence. He hit someone. Doesn't he know he could get expelled for this? Honestly, it makes him even more attractive. Protecting his girlfriend like that. TCH. What if it was you? Didn't you also say Nanami was an escort before? Still. If he hits again, They'll definitely expel him, right? Ah. You bastard, you wanna die? The guy on the floor roared, struggling to get up. Nanami took a frightened step back. But Yoru didn't hesitate. He had been waiting. The moment the other person got up, he stomped hard on their chest and sneered, "So tough, and you attack a girl? You disgust me." The force behind the stomp made the guy collapse again, groaning in pain and curling up on the ground. "This is how you treat girls?" Yoru pulled a drink from his pocket, unscrewed the cap, and calmly poured it out. The black coffee spilled mercilessly over the guy's head. Ah. Nanami's eyes widened. So this was what had happened. The next second, Yoru stepped again, grinding his foot down with frustration. Even someone like Ariri, with such high status, hadn't scared him. So why would anyone else? At Shuchin Academy, Ariri's family ranked in the top 10. Ah. It hurts. No. The guy let out a pig-like shriek. "This is the price you pay. If you don't like it, come find me." Yoru rolled his neck and pulled out another drink, pouring it out in humiliation. "You splashed cold water on Nanami back then, so now you get to feel it. 1 bottle. 2 bottles. 3. 4. Yoru wasn't worried about being expelled from Shuchin for this. He hadn't done anything wrong. He wasn't the same person anymore. Even if it went to the principal's office, it was obvious who bullied Nanami first. Everyone watching gulped nervously, clearly frightened. The one who was most scared was the flashy girl who had snatched Nanami's phone. "Your turn." Yoru glanced down at the boy on the floor, then turned his gaze on the girl. He raised his foot and stomped on her toes. She'd be limping for days. I. The girl's face turned ghostly pale, and her body trembled. "Yoru." Nanami suddenly grabbed his hand, clearly worried. What if he went too far? What if Shuchin really expelled him? Yoru turned back and sighed silently, his face still cold as he stared at the girl. "Get over here and apologize." These two had been the ones who bullied Nanami the most. And nearly the entire grade had joined in on the rumors that Nanami had sold herself to him. He couldn't beat up the whole school. Soon-misan. The girl stood shakily, trembling and swallowing nervously as she stared at Yoru. The funniest thing was, she couldn't help but think he was really attractive. So cool. As Soon-misan, Aoyama. She held the desk for support and clumsily stuttered out the apology. "That's enough, Kitakami-kun." Nanami shrank back, glancing nervously toward the door. Outside the classroom was a massive crowd, packed wall to wall. "That's Kitakami? When did he become like that? Wow. He's so good looking. Can someone explain what's going on? Stop pushing, I can't see. Is there a fight in there? Who's that guy?" "That guy is Kitakami, the one who stole Kasumijoka-senpai's stockings and panties. He lost weight over the summer. There's a rumor that Aoyama sold herself to him." "You're kidding, right? Did Japan lose the war? Looks like they're just dating. Probably jealous girls started the rumors. Who knows? Just enjoy the drama." Everything was being filmed and spread across group chats and school forums. More and more students rushed over to see the scene. Yoru wasn't worried about himself, but he was concerned for Nanami. He couldn't go too far. In the end, he didn't back down until the pressure forced those people to apologize. Whether sincere or not, they apologized to Nanami and him. Only then did he calm down and regain his usual composure. "Let's go." Yoru grabbed Nanami's wrist and gently said in front of everyone. I need to grab my books." Nanami turned into a steamy pressure cooker, unable to form a proper sentence. "Ah. That's so romantic. He's so charming." The boys weren't impressed, but the girls gasped in admiration. The guy Yoru had stomped on finally stood up, heart pounding. Clearly shaken. And the worst part? Yoru had the moral high ground. There was no denying the evidence. "You thinking of getting revenge?" Yoru sneered and looked over at him. And no. The guy shrank back, terrified like he was facing a wild beast. "Hey." Yoru exhaled and pulled Nanami back to her seat to grab her bag. He turned and glanced around the classroom. No one dared meet his or Nanami's eyes. "Let's go." Yoru took the hand of the blushing girl beside him and strode out. Nanami, shy and bashful, was like a frightened quail, her mind totally blank. The students automatically parted to make a narrow path. The corridor was crammed with people like a flood. Everyone watched as Yoru led Nanami away by the wrist. Once outside the school building, Yoru didn't stop. He sped up. He couldn't wait to bring Nanami home and properly talk things through. This silly girl. She'd worried him so much. He had to discipline her a little. Even after they left, the crowd outside Nanami's classroom didn't disperse. Her classmates looked around, blaming and avoiding responsibility. No one wanted to be the first to pretend nothing had happened and walk off. After a long while, the class rep timidly raised his hand. I think anyone who mocked Aoyama, or drew graffiti, should just admit it and apologize. Anyone else too. If you're embarrassed, write it on a note or offer compensation. We only thought she needed money. That's why we believed it. I agree. I didn't even know those two were dating. Money's not the problem. A few guilty students murmured their agreement.